Chapter 1973. There was a sea of people. The Ningxin battle arena had never been so lively. It was packed with people. Many of the clansmen had come a few days ago just to get a good spot. The clansmen who came late all sighed and frowned, but the further away they were, the less they saw. A 9-star battle. For this reason, the Vice-Patriarch, Shi Dingshan, called in the experts guarding the 18 gold amplification array to maintain the small 18 gold amplification array. Although it couldn't really withstand the crazy attacks of 9-star experts, as long as the attacks weren't aimed at the small 18 gold amplification array, it was fine. Except for a few who had important matters to attend to. The rest of the clan members were all here. This was a once-in-a-lifetime battle. Since Sanya became a 9-star expert, he hadn't been on the Ningxin battleground. The 9-star experts were ranked according to the Origin Awakening list, so it was very fair. Moreover, to a 9-star powerhouse, the ranking of the Tranquil Heart Pool was merely a name. "Look, Sanya King is here." Suddenly, a cry of surprise rang out from the crowd. In an instant, everyone's gazes focused on Sanya's body that resembled an ancient ferocious beast descended. He was clad in the outstanding supreme treasure armor, the One Armor, and his tiger eyes surged with a bright light. What a powerful aura! It's so far away that I can't even breathe. It's too scary. I'm afraid I'll be crushed to pieces at such a close distance. It's been too long. Sanya King has been silent for too long and hasn't made a move. Now even a newcomer dares to challenge his authority. We can use this opportunity to rebuild our reputation and let them know that our ancestors are actually very strong. However, Lord Lin Feng is also outstanding. There has never been a newcomer who could break through to 9 stars in such a short period of time. Such talent is as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns in the entire Origin Awakening continent. It is said that even the Patriarch is inferior to him. So what? No matter how strong Lord Lin Feng is, he's just talented. Maybe after a few eras or a few decades, he'll be able to compete with Sanya King. But right now, Sanya King will definitely win. That's right. I support Sanya King. More than 99% of the people in the crowd were experts from the ancestral bloodline. The population of the Milky Way bloodline was very small, but things were different now. Lin Feng had reached the 9-star level and became the pride of the race. Although the people of the Milky Way bloodline supported the vast Horizon King, they did not have any ill feelings towards Lin Feng. Every 9-star expert was the symbol of the tribe. They also worshipped Lin Feng, especially those young children and youths who yearned to become strong. To them, Lin Feng was closer to them, and his age was closer as well. It was as if he was beside them. However, in this battle, they still supported the vast Horizon King. Look, Lin Feng is here too. Not long after King Sanya arrived, Lin Feng arrived as well. He naturally wouldn't be late for such an important duel. He appeared in a carefree manner, flying past like a streak of light. Step! Lin Feng steadily descended onto the combat arena, like a shooting star that swiftly fell into the ocean. Yet he stopped at the exact same instant without even causing a trace of a ripple. His control over his strength had already arrived at an incomparably perfect state. His aura was faint and contained, just like an ordinary person. Lock screen with a single button. Lock screen with a single button. It was completely different from King Song Ya's domineering aura. Lord Lin Feng feels so friendly. Yeah, he's just like an ordinary person. I can't feel his aura at all, but it seems a little weak. Look at King Song Ya's aura. It's like a huge cage that's imprisoning Lord Lin Feng. What do you know? This is called using 4 tails to overcome 1,000 caddies. Moreover, aura is only useful for the strong to deal with the weak. It's useless in a real battle between the strong. Don't you see Lord Lin Feng's figure is like a pine tree, and his expression is normal? That's true. It's too exciting. The battle hasn't even started, and there are already so many hidden battles. I wonder who will win. There's no suspense as to who will win. Lord Lin Feng can't possibly be King Sangya's opponent. The only thing to watch is how long Lord Lin Feng can last against King Sanya. The public opinion was one-sided. Even if the clansmen of the Milky Way bloodline hoped that Lin Feng could win, they knew that the possibility was very small. That was because Lin Feng was going to face a super expert who had been famous for a long time and was ranked 39th on the Origin Awakening list, King Sanya. This was a battle without any suspense. At least, that was the case in the hearts of the clansmen. King Sanya and Lin Feng had arrived relatively early. They had to adapt to the atmosphere, accumulate their fighting spirit, and improve their condition. Even if King Sanya didn't think that Lin Feng could pose any threat to him, he was meticulous and went all out. Not only did he want to win, he wanted to win beautifully. Although I haven't transformed into a body of laws, it's not difficult for me to win against a newcomer who has just stepped into the 9-star realm. King Sanya was actually somewhat jealous of Lin Feng in his heart. He had stepped in the 9-star realm step by step, going through countless life and death battles. The dangers he faced were incomprehensible. On the other hand, Lin Feng had easily become a 9-star expert. He hadn't even faced any bottlenecks. This difference made King Sanya very uncomfortable. He also wished that he was such a monstrous genius. However, his bloodline talent was already destined. It was too difficult to go against the heavens and change one's fate. In terms of talent, I might not be as good as you. Perhaps one day, you will surpass me, but today, I will definitely defeat you. King Sanya's eyes were burning with flames, and his fighting spirit was high. There was no reason for him to lose this battle. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several figures came together, bringing with them a huge aura as if gods had descended. Even if they deliberately restrained their aura, it was still several times more powerful than when King Sanya arrived. The figure in the lead was resolute and firm, like a huge rock mountain. His whole person was like the incarnation of the earth. Shi Dingshan. Half a step away from Shi Dingshan was the cultured and elegant mystery, who wore a simple dress and looked decent. At the end of the line were Lu Ying and Su In, one on the left and one on the right. The arrival of the 4 9-star experts instantly caused the atmosphere to reach a climax. The clansmen hurriedly saluted. Deputy Patriarch, Deputy Patriarch, Shi Dingshan and Mystery, who were in the lead, nodded slightly and raised their hands to signal the clansmen to stand up. Today, we are just like you. We're just ordinary spectators. The clansmen were stunned. What did that mean? Lin Feng suddenly opened his eyes and looked into the distance. He only saw the sound of something breaking through the air, and a figure standing on a purple treasured sword had already stopped in the air. He was dressed in black martial clothes and had his hands behind his back. He looked like an ordinary person, but his appearance caused the entire space to freeze. Boundless sword essence spread out spontaneously, as if he was the incarnation of the sword. Patriarch, Patriarch, greetings, Patriarch. The clansmen were all shocked. They didn't expect that Patriarch Dongwang would come in person. Many of them had never even seen Patriarch Dongwang since they were born. Today's battle will be judged by me, Patriarch Dongwang said indifferently. Chapter 1974. This was the first time Patriarch Dongwang was the arbiter. Even Lin Feng and Lord Kangio were stunned. They didn't expect that even Patriarch Dongwang would be alarmed by their competition. Patriarch Dongwang had been in seclusion for a long time and almost ignored the world. Today's battle is just an ordinary competition. No matter what the result is, don't hold grudges. Dongwang said, "We are all brothers. Let's not make a bet. Don't let the clansmen laugh at us." "Yes, brother," Lin Feng and Lord Kangio answered. Lord Kangio was a little unwilling, but he didn't dare to disobey Patriarch Dongwang. After all, he was almost certain to win this competition, which was equivalent to cutting off his benefits. Dongwang said, "As for the quota of Tranquil Lake for this year, I will pay for it as well as 200,000 contribution points. So, don't think that you can do whatever you want without a bet. As long as you step into the arena, you must go all out." Lin Feng was secretly impressed. Patriarch Dongwang had settled the battle with just a few words, and there was no loss to him or Sanya. He was indeed the patriarch of the clan. On the other side, Shi Dingshan and Mystery smiled knowingly. As deputy patriarchs, They didn't want to see Lin Feng and Sanya fall out. After all, one had unlimited potential, and the other was the strongest in the clan. It was like a fish in a bear's paw. So, it was best to leave this matter to the patriarch. They knew Song Ya's temperament well. If the two of them came out, they might not be able to suppress this beast. Fortunately, seventh brother's loss is not big. Luing sighed softly and was relieved. Patriarch still favors seventh brother. Su sighed and looked at Lin Feng with envy. This is obviously to help seventh brother. After all, for fourth brother, it's the same. It's just that Patriarch Dong Wang pays the price. Luing said, but for Patriarch Dong Wang, whether fourth brother or seventh brother is strong, the clan is strong. Suen nodded. Actually, I still prefer the previous bet. Just as fourth brother said, seventh brother has been rising too quickly and is getting complacent. It is necessary to teach him a lesson. Lu Ying gently nodded. Seventh brother was a little reckless this time. Impulsive. Reckless. He was overestimating himself. Arrogant. This year, following Lin Feng's challenge to Sanya, it had been mentioned countless times. Naturally, no one would openly criticize a 9-star powerhouse, but they still secretly criticized Lin Feng. After all, King Sanya was the pride of his ancestors, the number one fighting force against the outside world. For the sake of his race, Lord Song Ye had made a lot of contributions and made a name for the human tribe of the Milky Way. Everyone wanted Vast Horizon King to win. Moreover, everyone believed that King Sanya would win, including Dong Wang, the patriarch. Therefore, Dong Wang stepped forward to help Lin Feng. He knew very well that Lord Kanjia was the current leader of the human tribe in the Milky Way, but this young man in front of him, Lin Feng, it was the future of the Milky Way's human race. Are you ready? Dong Wang glanced at them. Whoosh, whoosh. On both sides of the arena, Lin Feng and Tsang, you were full of fighting spirit. There was no need for more words. Their actions spoke for themselves. Dong Wang nodded and said, don't go too far. Begin. 2 words that were as heavy as thunder broke the silence. The battle began in an instant. Sanya let out a roar, and his superior true treasure armor, the armor of one, burst forth with boundless power. The law of earth was released, and it enveloped the entire battle arena. Behind Sanya, an ancient ferocious beast, the 1-1, suddenly appeared. It had the body of an elephant, the horns of a bull, the tail of a dragon, 8 arms, and 3 pairs of eyes. It was born to be the embodiment of the earth. It was extremely terrifying. Sanya could now use the armor of one to 100% of its power. Just by activating the true body of 1-1, the ancient beast, he could rival a 9-star powerhouse. 1-1 was born to control the earth, which was comparable to a domain-type excellent true treasure. In addition, 1-1's true body could enhance Song Ye's combat power greatly. Hua! Almost at the same time, Lin Feng's Brahma domain unfolded. As a space-type superior treasure, the Brahma domain was no weaker than the Wind domain. In fact, it was even stronger. However, at this moment, the Brahma domain was clearly suppressed. My attainments in the Tao of space aren't enough. Lin Feng knew this very well. Moreover, fourth brother Song Ye's Wind domain was more compatible with the Tao of Earth, so his control over it was stronger. As soon as he made his move, he was already at a disadvantage. B2 in terms of strength, Lin Feng was indeed inferior to Sanya. Everyone knew this, so they were not surprised. However, in the next instant, everyone's eyes widened. Ooh, 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 ooh. The wings of warmth unfurled, and black light enveloped the earth. Its might was so great that it was comparable to Brahma, and it suddenly overshadowed the aura of the domain of warmth. Chi, chi. The entire space was in chaos. The flapping of the wings of warmth caused the space to become incomparably chaotic. In an instant, it broke through the restrictions of the one domain. Although it could not break through it, it was now on par with it. Oh, that's right. Spatial disorder. Sure, Ding Shan and the other 9-star experts naturally understood at a glance. Spatial disorder was a very good law. Although it was only a mid-level law, it was extremely practical. Comprehending it alone was a bit difficult, but it was a different story when it came within superior treasure. Roar! The wind domain behind Song Ye became real. As he roared, his body, which was several hundred times larger than Lin Feng's, suddenly charged forward. As he charged forward, his body continuously shrank, but his power continued to condense. It was as if all his power had been refined to the extreme. Chi! Sharp claws tore through the air. Its attack carried the law of Earth. Its attack also carried the law of Earth. It was the embodiment of Earth. It was mighty, mighty, and unparalleled. Of course, Song Ye could not summon Wind Domain, and Wind Domain could not live here. This was just a drop of Wind Domain's lifeblood. Its power was completely dependent on its master, Song Ye. Wind Domain would be as powerful as Song Ye's attainments in the law of Earth. If Song Ye had a law body and was recognized by the law of Earth, Wind Domain would truly become Wind Domain, the embodiment of Earth. Chi! Lin Feng unsheathed his Eclipse Mystic Saber. The Eclipse Mystic Saber, with its third secret rune activated, showed its true power for the first time. At full power, it was close to an ordinary superior treasure. With Lin Feng's third secret rune of light, the saber showed its true power. Hua! 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 Lin Feng's body was surrounded by dense light element. Like a natural magnet, he absorbed the light element endlessly and even gave birth to the light element. Extreme compatibility. It was not compatibility with the saber, but compatibility with the light element and light origin. Lin Feng was like the embodiment of light. The law of Earth was even stronger than Wind Domain's embodiment of Earth. What? Law body? No way. How is this possible? Even Patriarch Dongwang and Song Ye widened their eyes in shock. The group of 9-star great beings was completely shocked. Chapter 1975. Body of Laws. Only by fully comprehending a complete great Tao of laws would all 6 branch meridians be bestowed with the origin of laws. It was quite difficult. After all, the comprehension of different laws was different for each branch meridian. Therefore, among all the 9-star experts in the Origin Awakening continent, there were only a dozen or so who had a body of laws. Among the Milky Way's human clan, only Patriarch Dongwang and Deputy Patriarch Shidingshan had a body of laws. Even Deputy Patriarch Enigma did not have one. Song Ye had been studying the Tao of the Earth Law for countless eras and was only one Tao away from success. Now, he was extremely eager for the quota of Tranquil Heart Lake. He wanted to have a body of laws before the void turbulence opened. At that time, his control of the Tao of the Earth would reach a new realm and level. The power of the 2 Earth-type outstanding true treasures, the One Armor and the Battle Machete, could also be improved. His strength alone could increase by more than 10%. If he could master the outstanding true treasures, his combat strength would increase by at least 30% and at most 50%. But now, he never expected that the body of laws that he had not been able to achieve after painstakingly cultivating would appear in the body of a newcomer who had just entered the 9-star level. How could he endure this? He was simply dumbfounded. Unbelievable. Even Patriarch Dongwang sighed. He knew that Lin Feng's talent was monstrous and his comprehension was astonishing, but he never thought that Lin Feng would be able to possess a body of laws in such a short period of time. This speed was already enough to defeat all the experts on the Origin Awakening list, including himself. A body of laws was among the 9-star experts. The symbol of an expert. Tears of Chaos. Lin Feng attacked with the second move of the Myriad Obscuring Heavenly Blade. Although the strongest move of the Myriad Obscuring Heavenly Blade was the fusion of light and darkness, whether it was driven by light or darkness alone, it was still very powerful. After all, it was a blade technique created by Ancestor Wanqian. It was extremely powerful. Moreover, Lin Feng's ultimate blade proficiency had reached 80%. The essence of the second move, Tears of Chaos, could be fully displayed. Boom, boom, boom. Lin Feng's blade collided head-on with Zhong Wen's true body. Zhong Wen roared furiously, but he could not withstand the waves of suppression from Lin Feng's light origin. The strength of his law body also overwhelmed his way of the earth bit by bit. Most importantly, it was just a clone, an outstanding true treasure. No matter how strong they were still affected by Song Ye's strength. Boom! Lin Feng swung his saber backhandedly again. The sky seemed to be weeping as three beams of light crisscrossed and intersected with each other. A tearing sound came from Zhong Wen's real body as he was heavily injured. He instantly retreated and landed behind Song Ye. At this moment, the battle intent in Song Ye's eyes grew deeper and deeper. From the beginning to the end, he did not move at all. This was because he believed that Lin Feng was not worthy of him drawing his blade. He was a mere newcomer. Even Gongwen's true body could easily defeat him. But he was wrong. "Seventh brother, your strength surprises me," Song Ye suddenly said. His voice was less dignified and stern, but more serious and dignified. This was because he clearly knew that Lin Feng's ability to defeat Zhong Wen's true body meant that he was no weaker than Suen. No, he was stronger. This was because his sixth brother, Suen, could only fight Zhong Wen's true body to a draw. But Lin Feng had defeated Zhong Wen. "I didn't expect your strength to catch up to my fifth sister in such a short time." Song Ye's eyes suddenly sharpened as his battle intent soared. A gigantic saber appeared in his hand. The saber was covered with terrifying veins that pierced the bones. It was the outstanding true treasure, the Zhan Yi saber. Together with Zhong Wen, one attacked and one defended, creating the name Slayer King. "You're worthy of me using my saber." Song Ye looked at Lin Feng and said slowly, "I created this saber move myself. It's called Boundless Heaven and Earth. There are 6 moves in total. If you can take 5 of them without losing, I'll admit defeat." Huh. Song Ye's body was huge. Behind him, Zhong Wen materialized and condensed on Zhong Wen's body, becoming a part of him. The saber in his hand condensed a huge aura. Under the activation of the law of Earth, its power was shocking. The saber's almighty mastery was close to the limit. The Slayer King's reputation was not undeserved. "Get ready," as Song Ye roared. He was like a tyrannical and peerless beast standing on the vast earth. His hair stood on end, and his domineering aura soared into the sky. His saber-intent world was filled with wild ambition, just like his heart. Compared to Lin Feng's 1,000 obscuring heavenly saber, it was less mysterious and profound, but more direct and domineering. The first move, Boundless Wild. The earth was wild, and so was the heart. Song Ye's Zhong Wen saber displayed a power that was close to the saber's almighty mastery. Almost half of the 9-star experts were at the almighty mastery level. Song Ye, who was strong in combat, was one of them. His saber technique had reached the 99% level that Dong Wang, the patriarch, had mentioned. He was only one step away from the almighty mastery level. Unfortunately, this one step was quite difficult to comprehend. It was much harder than going from 0 to 99%. Most of the 9-star experts were stuck at the 1% level. Even so, Song Ye's saber technique level was still many times stronger than Lin Feng's. 3 moves. He will lose in 3 moves. Although Song Ye thought highly of Lin Feng, he still did not think that Lin Feng was a match for him. He was 100% confident that he could defeat Lin Feng in 3 moves. The power of the first move had already surpassed Zhong Wen's true body. With the help of the outstanding Zhong Wen's armor, Song Ye was invincible. He was the #1 war god of the Milky Way's human tribe. Boom! The Zhong Wen's saber condensed the law of Earth. It shrouded the entire arena. His saber technique level was very high, but he could not use even half of his will. It was as if he was restricted. How can this be? Song Ye's eyes widened in disbelief. His saber technique level was far higher than Lin Feng's, but he felt powerless at the moment. The sabers clashed, and the origin of light and the origin of Earth collided fiercely. The shattered elemental energy scattered everywhere. Fortunately, there was the protection of the 18 gold amplification array. Otherwise, he would be in big trouble. I don't believe it. Song Ye gritted his teeth, and his fighting spirit soared. The second move, Boundless Earth. It was steady and heavy, showing the power of the earth. However, it was still blocked by Lin Feng. The shocking rebound force forced Sanya to retreat dozens of steps before he could stabilize himself. Boundless Mountain. Sanya's eyes were red. The overbearing power increased his combat power again. He tried to suppress Lin Feng with a stronger saber will, but he was still trapped in Lin Feng's saber will. He could not use even half of his will. This was impossible. Sanya turned pale with fright, never having imagined that things would turn out like this. The saber technique he was most proud of, his strongest move, could not be used at all. It was as if his hands and feet were tied by iron chains. Lin Feng was clearly so weak, and his saber technique level was far inferior to his. However, every time he used his saber technique, it was as if he had the help of the gods. Chapter 1976. Sanya was not the only one who was surprised. Even the Patriarch Dong Wang, the Deputy Patriarch Shi Dingshan, and Mystery were shocked. The other clansmen only saw the saber and saber colliding, the battle intent clashing, and the elemental origin laws crazily attacking each other. However, they saw it clearly. A bystander would have a clearer view of the situation than Sanya himself. What an exquisite saber move. Mystery's beautiful eyes flickered, and she sighed softly, completely suppressed. Shi Dingshan sighed. Fourth brother's saber technique realm is far superior to Lin Feng's. He should have won easily, but he also uses a saber, and his saber moves are connected. Fighting at the same level is like fighting at close range. His saber moves are suppressed, and the power of his saber moves cannot be exerted. One has a strong saber technique realm, and the other is the best. Mystery said softly, "There is such a wonderful saber move in the world, and I can't understand it at all." Dong Wang stared intently at the fighting ring, and his heart was in turmoil. With his vision and strength, it was not difficult for him to comprehend the artistic conception of sword movements, saber movements, and fist movements, although he could not fully comprehend them. But at this time, Lin Feng's saber moves were like a needle that wanted to pierce through, but found that it went in seamlessly. Exquisite beyond compare. But the realm can't be reversed, but the essence can. Dong Wang was very clear that Lin Feng had almost reached his limit, but Sanya had not. He still had 3 moves of the saber move Vast Earth that he created. The power of the last 3 moves and the first 3 moves were very different. The essence was also very different. Seventh brother's essence can be suppressed, but not below 50%. Dong Wang's eyes were bright, and he sighed softly in his heart. He knew clearly how powerful the last 3 moves of Song Ya's Vast Earth were. Unfortunately, Lin Feng relied on this exquisite saber move. If he had the same saber technique realm as Sanya, he would have won today's battle. It was not difficult to master all saber techniques from 80% to 99%, but it needed time. Seventh brother, I still underestimated you. Sanya looked straight at Lin Feng, and he had already calmed down and no longer looked down on him. Your strength is much stronger than I thought. I'm afraid that even fifth sister is no match for you. The crowd burst into an uproar. Sanya did not bother to lower his voice. He disdained to do so. 1 was 1, 2 was 2. He was very satisfied with Lin Feng's strength. The strong valued the strong. Sanya now viewed Lin Feng in a new light. Originally, he had thought that Lin Feng was overflowing with talent and had risen to an extremely high position all of a sudden. That was why he had looked down on him. But now, that was not the case. Lin Feng was the real deal. Lin Feng was worthy of being his opponent. At the side of the combat arena, Lu Ying gazed at Lin Feng with a complicated expression. She didn't need Sanya to tell her, as she discerned that this seventh brother, who'd just advanced into the 9-star realm, possessed strength that wasn't inferior to her now. It was both gratification and inexplicable bitterness, but more than that, it was amazement. His talent left others in the dust. Beside her, Suan also had a bitter expression. How could he have imagined that the young fellow he'd just recruited in the ultimate Dragon Sky City would become stronger than him in the blink of an eye in just a few years? Although he was ranked 6th, he was ranked last in terms of strength. Sigh, comparisons are odious. Suen sighed in his heart as he stared at the combat arena. He really wanted to know how far Lin Feng could push his fourth brother Sanya. At this point in the battle, Lin Feng had already lost honorably. Rumble, Sanya's expression was solemn. His aura had reached its peak, and the earth and rocks cracked. He hadn't even used his saber move, but the prelude was already extremely terrifying. The earth's pulse was chaotic, but it contained a unique mystery. The move was chaotic, but the heart wasn't. The fourth move of Boundless Heaven and Earth, Chaotic Boundless. In terms of power, it could unleash 90% of the power of the ultimate saber proficiency realm. It was almost 10 times stronger than the third move, Boundless Mountain. There was a huge jump from 80% to 90%. This was the last 3 moves of Boundless Heaven and Earth. Sanya's neck was red, and his meridians were bulging. The muscles on his back were bulging, and it was extremely terrifying. This move required an extremely strong, explosive power. Suddenly, dang, a bell that shook one's soul resounded in the combat arena. A phantom of a giant golden bell appeared around the combat arena. The 18 clansmen controlling the 18 gold, diffusing formation were all stunned. Even though Lin Feng wasn't attacking them, they were still stunned and their minds went blank. Elite True Treasure Golden Bell. It was an extremely rare soul attack type true treasure. Back when Lin Feng was an 8-star, the Golden Bell could already unleash great power. Now, as a 9-star Lin Feng, he could unleash the power of the Golden Bell to the limit, or even beyond it. In Lin Feng's hands, the Golden Bell was no less than an excellent true treasure. It directly hit Sanya. Sanya's soul wasn't his forte. In fact, it could even be said that he was weak. However, no matter what, he was still much stronger than an 8-star expert. This time, however, he was completely unprepared and was completely caught off guard by Lin Feng. Moreover, Lin Feng's soul was too strong. Even in the Origin Awakening list, he was a top-notch existence. It was impossible for him to kill Sanya with his soul, but it was easy for him to affect him. Even if Sanya was prepared, he couldn't avoid it. The surging saber energy and battle intent that he had just accumulated instantly leaked like a balloon, and Sanya's entire body shook. His head buzzed, and before he could react, whoosh, whoosh, 2 black lights, one on the left and one on the right, suddenly appeared, one after another. They were blood-red like hungry tigers, and they directly attacked Sanya. They were the excellent true treasures Mo Xianbo and the elite true treasure Gu Wangliang. The former's strength lay in the true treasure itself, while the latter's strength lay in its perfect compatibility with Lin Feng and the Tao of Dark Demons. Their power was on par. With the support of barbaric blood, their power increased to the level of 9 stars, and they were as fast as lightning. Pung! Pung! One Kai displayed a shocking defense, and one roared to protect its master. However, Sanya still groaned and spat out blood. He was continuously forced back, and his eyes were filled with shock. He had actually been injured. However, the intense pain made him wake up. Sanya instantly felt as if he had been enlightened, and he broke free from the numbness and restraint of his soul. One Kai once again shone, displaying the power of an excellent true treasure. Although it had dimmed a little, it was still incomparably powerful. However, at this moment, a white light fell behind Sanya like a meteor. It was the Profound Light Shuttle. The Profound Light Shuttle was bestowed with the divine light pattern and controlled by the body of law, and it had already reached the limit of its power. Not only was its speed faster than the Mo Xianbo and the Guang Liang, it was also the first true treasure that Lin Feng had used and controlled. This was a true attack. Not good. Sanya, who had experienced countless battles, instantly widened his eyes, and a chill ran down his spine. His intuition told him that the danger behind him was extremely terrifying, and he almost reflexively drew his saber. Boom! The Profound Light Shuttle and the War Machete collided head-on. One was an attack that had been prepared for a long time. The other was just a temporary burst of power. It was instantly clear who was stronger and who was weaker. Boom! Under the full power of the profound light shuttle, the war machete was completely destroyed, and it directly crashed into Song Ya's back, creating a shocking boom that was mixed with Song Ya's scream of pain and anger. This attack was too ruthless. Chapter 1977. Everyone was stunned. Not only were they stunned, but even the 9-star experts, including Dong Wang, felt their hearts tighten. It was impossible to guard against. Lin Feng's attacks were like a barrage of cannons. Not to mention Sanya, even they would find it hard to resist. Endless attacks, close-range attacks, long-range attacks, space and soul attacks were omnipotent. What was even more terrifying was that the attacks were condensed into a single line. Sanya was directly injured. Rather than saying that he was careless, it was more accurate to say that Lin Feng's attacks were too exquisite. Sanya was not the only one who underestimated Lin Feng. Shi, Dingshan, Enigma, and the other 9-star experts also underestimated Lin Feng. His true strength was far greater than this. 30%? Now it's 50%. After a long silence, Lin Feng finally burst out. From the beginning, he had been dormant, pretending to be weak, in order to lower Song Ya's guard and wait for an opportunity to counterattack. Unfortunately, Fourth Brother's physical defense is too strong, and my Mahua Boat's attack is not at its peak. Lin Feng knew very well that if it were Fifth Sister or Sixth Brother, his attack would be enough to defeat them. But it was not enough to defeat Fourth Brother. Whether it was the Skeleton Demon or the Profound Light Shuttle, they were elite true treasures. Although their power was not inferior to the Mahua Boat, their upper limit was far from the Mahua Boat. The Mahua Boat, at its peak, could defeat Fourth Brother, but the Skeleton Demon and the Profound Light Shuttle could not. Injuring Fourth Brother was already their limit. Whoosh! Lin Feng instantly closed in. His speed was so fast that it had the essence of the Tao of Light. Among the 9-star experts, his speed was the top. If his Tao of Dark Matter could also reach perfection, his movement would not only be faster, but also more ghostly. The body of Law condensed the amazing origin of light, and Lin Feng's divine mark of light completely lit up. The law of light condensed into one, forming a resonance. Under the body of Law, it directly merged perfectly. Lin Feng's Eclipse Mystic Knife had already broken through space and arrived. Tears of Chaos. Although it was the second move, it was faster and more urgent. Taking advantage of the enemy's weakness, the powerful knife, intent, seemed to make the surrounding space cry. The knife technique was like a rainbow. As he roared, Song Ya's eyes turned blood red. Although he was injured, that didn't mean that he didn't have the strength to fight back. His pride wouldn't allow him to be defeated by Lin Feng like this. The webbing between his thumb and index finger exploded as Song Ya clashed head-on with Lin Feng. However, the ferocious Lin Feng, whose battle prowess was astonishing, had already suppressed Song Ya. Boom! 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 Song Ya felt as if his heart was bleeding. Lin Feng's blade was becoming more and more tyrannical. Every strike forced him to retreat. If it weren't for the one armor protecting him, he would have been defeated a long time ago. Pong! Their attacks collided, and they pulled apart the distance between them. Song Ya's blood-red eyes were overflowing with battle intent. The battle axe blade in his hand flashed with saber light, instantly forming a chaotic and boundless aura. But at this moment, a saber light abruptly appeared in front of him, directly shattering the space around him. The saber light frenziedly tore apart the space around him. The chaotic, boundless domain was destroyed as soon as it was formed. Song Ya hurriedly tried to defend himself, his eyes filled with shock. Spatial disorder. Kill him. Impossible. 2 types of spatial laws, especially the spatial strangulation, were of an extremely high level. Using them at the same time required the user's strength to be extremely high. If it was just spatial disorder, it wouldn't be much of a threat to Song Ya. But with the addition of spatial strangulation, it was a completely different story. The shattered space was strangling Song Ya, who was in the center. His saber didn't have time to stop and gather. At this moment, Lin Feng's saber was as heavy as Mount Tai, suppressing him once again. Mandarin Duck Tai. 10,000 obscuring heavenly blade, third move. This was also Lin Feng's strongest move at the moment. It was a move that could unleash its maximum power. Although Lin Feng had touched upon the fourth move, boundless weight, its power was still inferior to Mandarin Duck Tai. This move was half as fast as Tears of Chaos, but once it was unleashed, its power was unparalleled. Boom! Sanya, who was trapped by spatial strangulation, had just broken free when Lin Feng's powerful suppression trapped him again. He clenched his teeth and roared. Sanya was finally able to use chaotic, boundless domain, but its power had been greatly reduced. This included his fighting spirit, which had declined over and over again. Pung! In the void, a resplendent radiance blasted Sanya down. Lin Feng was brimming with divine light runes. The strength of his body of laws made his saber move even more indestructible. Ancestor Wangan had created the myriad obscuring heavenly saber with such a foundation. In Ancestor Wangan's opinion, his descendant had his powerful bloodline. Shouldn't a body of laws be at the very least? I won't lose. Sanya was hysterical. He was clenching his teeth so hard that they were about to shatter. At this point in the battle, he was completely enraged. He was like an enraged, ferocious beast. The power of his saber had reached its peak. Being injured wouldn't make Sanya give up. It would only make him more ferocious. But this time, his opponent wasn't ordinary. The black warm wings moved again. There were a total of 3 pairs, leaving behind afterimages. It was the advanced ability, Warm Wing Slash. There were a total of 3 layers of Warm Wing Slash. Lin Feng could only use 1 layer now, but it was enough. Warm Wing Slash and saber techniques had a lot in common. At the same time, Warm Wing Slash was the derivation and foundation of the spatial strangulation law. Learning Warm Wing Slash also meant comprehending spatial strangulation. This was the requirement of the advanced ability of the outstanding Brahma treasure, Brahma's Wrath. They were connected, and this was where Lin Feng's confidence came from. Now, not only could he use the advanced ability of Warm Wings, but he could also use the advanced ability of Brahma. Not only did he have more combat methods, but his combat power was also stronger. It's time to end this. Lin Feng raised his hand. The outstanding Brahma treasure's power was already exploding. Rumble. Compared to the agility of Warm Wing Slash, Brahma's Wrath was more explosive, but it didn't have enough stamina. Moreover, the attack was slow and could be easily dodged. But together with Warm Wings, it was a perfect combination. Spatial disorder. Warm Wing Slash. Then boom. Brahma's Wrath was like a bomb exploding, directly exploding in the middle of the strangulation. Sanya's eyes widened in shock. The warm armor had lost its luster. As an outstanding defensive treasure, it wouldn't be easily destroyed. But at this time, its defensive power was less than 10%. Boundless firmament. Sanya forced out the last of his strength and attacked. He didn't want to lose. However, he was greatly restricted. He had expended too much of his strength due to the wings of warmth and Brahma. Facing Lin Feng, who was descending from the sky, and the Eclipse secret sieve blade, which was as powerful as 1,000 kilograms, he was already powerless to block it. 1,000 obscuring heavenly saber, Mandarin Duck Tai. Rumble. An earth-shattering explosion resounded. The entire 18 gold diffusing great array trembled. The faces of the 18 experts in charge of maintaining it were pale. The power was too strong. Pairs of eyes stared at the tranquil heart arena in shock. Spatial turbulence was everywhere, and the elements were chaotic. A figure stood upright with a saber in hand. Another figure had already fallen on the arena, unable to fight anymore. It was Sanya. Lin Feng wins. Patriarch Donghuang's voice resounded. Chapter 1978. He won. Lin Feng actually won. When the clansmen heard the Patriarch's final announcement, they could not believe that it was true. However, the scenes on the battle arena would not lie. Sanya was covered in blood, lying on the battle arena, his eyes empty and lifeless. Lin Feng stood upright. Apart from his slightly pale face, there was nothing unusual about his expression. The winner was Lin Feng, a newcomer who had just advanced to the 9-star level, had defeated the 39th ranked on the Origin Awakening list, the #1 fighting force of the Milky Way's human clan, the brave and undefeated Sonya King. Unbelievable. Oh my God, is this real? Am I seeing things? Lord Lin Feng really won. That was Sonya King. Sonya King, who is ranked 39th on the Origin Awakening list and has never been defeated, actually lost to Lord Lin Feng. I must be dreaming. This is too scary. Did you see that just now? How did Lord Lin Feng win? I didn't see it clearly at all. My head was in a daze, and it was already over. There was an uproar around the battle arena. 9 out of 10 clansmen were confused and had no idea what had happened. With their knowledge, they had no idea how Lin Feng won. In their opinion, this was simply unbelievable. However, the 9-star experts saw it clearly. The two deputy patriarchs, Shi Dingshan and Mystery, looked at each other. They could see the incomparable shock in each other's eyes. They knew that Lin Feng's potential was unlimited, but they did not expect his battle strength to be so tyrannical. That was Sonya. Even if it was them, it would not be easy to defeat Sonya. He actually won, Shi Dingshan muttered to himself. He won, Mystery said softly. Shi Dingshan let out a long sigh. Seventh brother's battle strength is too amazing. In terms of strength, fourth brother is still stronger, but Mystery shook her head. She and Shi Dingshan had seen clearly that Lin Feng had defeated Sonya. Although he had relied on strength, tactics had taken up a large part of his victory. Or rather, it was battle strength. With the same level of strength, if one of them could unleash 120% while the other could only unleash 90%, the difference would be huge. From the beginning to the end, fourth brother was unable to truly perform the last 3 moves of the boundless heaven and earth. Su sighed inwardly. Otherwise, the outcome might have been different. The patriarch has already warned fourth brother that his control over the battlefield is too weak. Just relying on the codex domain is not enough. Shi Dingshan said, "It will be very troublesome if you encounter an opponent with a strong mastery of the law of space or an opponent with an outstanding domain-type true treasure." Riddle said, "Fourth brother is very stubborn. He will only be loyal to his own path. Even if he fails this time, he will not change anything." Suin shrugged. "Can't help it. This is fourth brother." Luing didn't make a sound for a long time, nor did she make any comments. She just kept staring at the combat ring with her beautiful eyes, and only after a long time did she heave a long sigh of relief and shake her head with a bitter smile. "I never expected that sixth brother wasn't able to catch up to me, but seventh brother actually caught up to me." Hearing this, Suin's old face instantly turned red. He wanted to refute, but he could only pout. Among the 9-star experts, he was indeed the weakest. The battle was over. Lin Feng's expression was very calm. He clearly knew that he had won this battle by luck. The next time he faced fourth brother Sonya, it would be difficult to win under the circumstances where he was prepared. However, the next time they faced each other, my strength will be much stronger than it is now. After this battle, Lin Feng was even clearer about the path he had to walk in the future. Perhaps the surrounding clansmen were all amazed and doubtful, unable to believe it. However, he was very clear that this was only a small part of his strength. When he was at the 8-star level, he was already outstanding, able to match 9-star experts. After becoming a 9-star expert, it was normal for his strength to increase greatly. Right now, his strongest strength was the inheritance of ancestor Wan Qian's bloodline, the light and darkness bloodline, supplemented by the Wan Qian Heavenly Blade and the Wan Qian Dao. As long as he had enough time, he would soon be able to reach a higher level than his current strength. My current true strength is probably between 40 and 45 on the Origin Awakening list. Although he had defeated fourth brother Sonya, Lin Feng was very clear in his heart. The current him was actually still a little weaker than Sonya. However, it was not much. However, he was indeed already stronger than fifth sister and sixth brother. This was something Lin Feng was very sure of. He glanced at fourth brother Sonya, who was lying on the arena. His eyes were empty and lifeless, as if he was still unable to accept the outcome of his defeat. Sonya still had strength left, but that was because he had held back at the end. Otherwise, even if he did not die, he would be severely injured. A mere outstanding true treasure battle armor could not protect him completely. Speaking of which, actually, I should go and prepare a set of battle armor. Lin Feng thought to himself. Although the Mo Shui boat had defensive abilities, it was not a true battle armor. The same was true for the Warm Wings. They both had defensive abilities, but they were not battle armor. It was still necessary to have a purely defensive battle armor. In today's battle with fourth brother Sanya, he had relied on his physical body to forcefully resist most of the time. If he had battle armor, the damage would be much less. He would not be able to gain the upper hand every time. Much of the Black Dragon Demon armor had been damaged. Even if it was repaired, it would only be an elite true treasure battle armor. Compared to an outstanding true treasure battle armor, the gap was huge. Fourth brother Sanya's warm armor was very good. It had summoning, domain, support, and extremely strong defense. Even after being attacked repeatedly, the warm armor had not been damaged at all. This was a true top-level battle armor. Soon, he would enter the void turbulence. It did not matter if his attack was weaker, but the stronger his defense, the better. That way, his chances of survival would be higher. Survive first, and then talk about opportunities. I will go to Tranquil Heart Lake first, clan leader. Lin Feng bowed to clan leader Dongwang. Then, he bid farewell to brother Shi and sister Mystery and left. From the beginning to the end, he did not say a word or exchange any pleasantries with fourth brother Sanya, because there was no need. For a true expert, the opponent's sympathy and pleasantries were humiliating. He knew very well that fourth brother Sanya was a warrior with great self-esteem. Saying some pleasantries would humiliate him. There was no need to say more, and there was no need to worry that fourth brother Song could not accept defeat. Sanya was already well-tempered steel. Failure was not a bad thing for him. On the contrary, it could make him stronger. Of course, it was the same for him. Next time, I will defeat you again, fourth brother. The strong appreciated the strong. Lin Feng had no malice or resentment toward fourth brother Sanya. From the beginning to the end, Sanya had been loyal to him. In essence, fourth brother was very similar to him. Whoosh! Lin Feng's departure caused an uproar. At this time, Lin Feng could no longer keep a low profile because he had just defeated Lord Sanya, the clan's most powerful expert. And Lin Feng was just a newcomer who had just broken through not long ago. This was going to be a story that would spread far and wide. A new star is rising. Clan leader Dongwang put his hands behind his back and smiled. He was very satisfied. Lin Feng was strong, and the Milky Way human tribe would be stronger. Chapter 1979. Lin Feng sat on the ground beside Calming Heart Lake and waited quietly. There were less than 10 hours left before his quota was up. He could use this time to recover his body. The battle with Song yet consumed a lot of strength and energy, especially energy, which was especially important for cultivation. 2 years. I have 2 full years of Calming Heart Lake quota. Lin Feng was looking forward to it. This was a great opportunity for him to improve his law cultivation. The first year's quota was originally his. The second year's quota was given to him by brother Shi, sister Mystery, and sister Wu. As for the third year's quota, Lin Feng did not plan to take it. He had already won the battle, so there was no need to be so ruthless. After all, they were all from the same clan and would see each other often. Moreover, brother Sanya needed Calming Heart Lake very much. Brother Shi once said that brother Sanya's goal is to achieve perfection in the law of earth, which is the law of earth body. Lin Feng could feel that Song was only a step away. Perhaps this failure had taught him a painful lesson, and he might even be able to use it to make a breakthrough. Soon, my law of darkness will also achieve a law of body. But what should I do next? Lin Feng couldn't make up his mind. Strictly speaking, his comprehension of the law of thunder was not bad. Of course, it was much worse than the law of light and darkness. However, his life rating was right there, and he had the experience of having a perfect body of laws, as well as the treasured land of Tranquil Heart Lake. In 2 years' time, Lin Feng was absolutely confident that he could achieve perfection in the law of thunder and obtain a law body. His combat strength would definitely increase, and his life rating would also increase. But actually, it won't increase my strength that much. Lin Feng understood that even if he obtained a Law of Thunder body, it would only strengthen his body and increase his life rating. After all, he relied more on the Law of Light and Darkness than the Law of Thunder. Lin Feng sighed softly and paused. There was no need to make a decision so early. He would first obtain the approval of the Origin of Darkness and obtain a Law of Darkness body. It's still a problem whether the two Law of Light and Darkness bodies can coexist. Lin Feng was still a little worried. After all, the Law of Light and the Law of Darkness were like two poles of a magnet that repelled each other. What would happen if the Law of Light and the Law of Darkness merged into one? He really did not know. Let's give a try first. Since my ancestor could do it, logically speaking, I should be able to do it too. Lin Feng was already mentally prepared. Since he was walking the path of the ancestor's legacy, he would encounter this problem sooner or later. 10 hours passed very quickly. After consuming the heaven and earth fruit, Lin Feng's condition had long since recovered. He leaped into the calming heart lake and felt the surging energy of heaven and earth. Lin Feng immediately put away the divine rune of light and activated the third stage of the divine rune of darkness. Hua, comprehending the 6 paths of darkness. The 2 years of tranquil heart lake cultivation had officially begun. The 6 dark paths, Lin Feng's attainments in the dark demon Dao, were undoubtedly the highest. Not only had he reached the Great Perfection Realm, but he had also taken the first step after the Great Perfection Realm, analyzing 100,000 source points. The other 5 Great Daos of Darkness weren't bad either. With the 3rd stage Dark Mageweth, the perfect bloodline, and the experience of cultivating at the Calming Heart Lake, Lin Feng comprehended dark matter, darkness, and annihilation in succession within a short month. Like a hot knife through butter. In the last half a month, along with the comprehension of the Tao of heavy darkness, all 6 great Daos of darkness had reached the Great Perfection Realm, causing the Dark Mageweth in his bloodline to be perfect. It was like a complete painting without any flaws. Pung, pung, pung. Lin Feng's heartbeat suddenly sped up, and the familiar feeling attacked him again. Endless laws descended from the sky, as if he was enlightened. The only difference was that this time, it was the Dark Origin Law and not the Light Origin Law. It was incomparably comfortable. The 3rd stage, Dark Mageweth, happily absorbed the pure power of laws, and even the color of the divine rune was slightly changing. It was darker and more mysterious. On his forehead, the mark of darkness shone, but the mark of time suddenly lit up, as if it was unwilling to be bound by the mark of darkness. The 2 extreme energies clashed fiercely. One was originally in his body. The other one had just entered his body. Endless light and dark elements clashed, and endless energy kept fighting in Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng only felt that he was in a very dangerous and delicate situation. If he wasn't careful, he would be torn apart by these 2 extremely terrifying energies. Control it. Lin Feng tightly guarded his mind, and his willpower was firm. On one hand, he suppressed the mark of light, and on the other hand, he endured the intense pain to accept the mark of darkness. Vigorous energy poured into his body, and every second felt like a year to Lin Feng. Even though he was soaking in the calming heart lake, Lin Feng was sweating profusely as if he was about to collapse. The power of laws, along with the powerful origin law, was firmly imprinted in every part of his body, bones, skin, and cells. The 2 separate energies were like a beautiful painting, and the traces of each stroke were extremely heavy. This process was equivalent to torture for Lin Feng. However, he clearly knew that he absolutely couldn't fail. Once he failed, not only would he lose his Dark Origin Law body, but he might also be torn apart by the 2 enormous energies. The battle in his body was more dangerous than any other battle. Patter, patter, patter. From sweat to blood, Lin Feng's upper body was soaked in the calming heart lake. With him as the center, the world was dyed red with blood. The blood that contained Lin Feng's willpower was so powerful that it naturally couldn't merge with the calming heart lake. causing the entire lake to look exceptionally strange. The clash of wills was a tempering of the mind. The two origin laws were fighting for control of his body, but it was already coming to an end. Close. Lin Feng suddenly opened his blood-red eyes. His powerful willpower was perfect like a diamond, and even after experiencing endless pain, it didn't dim at all. The mark of darkness was deeply embedded in his soul. It resonated greatly with the mark of light. At this moment, it was like a tame, ferocious beast that had finally settled down. As the mark of darkness submitted, the origin of darkness in his body was like water without a source, and its power gradually dissipated. Fusing into one, there was no longer any gap between the origin of light and the origin of darkness. With 12 origin laws at perfection, Lin Feng's attainments in the Tao of light and Tao of darkness were extremely profound. Therefore, he could control them as he wished. It was because of this that he could forcefully fuse the two origin laws with his willpower. His entire body was perfect and flawless. Even the mark of soul was imprinted with the origin laws of light and darkness. Every cell in his body hid the mark of light and darkness. Every piece of skin, every piece of bone, and even every drop of blood was the same. It seemed to have been assimilated by the origin of light and darkness, but wasn't it also the origin of light and darkness being assimilated by his body? A great transformation. It was a body of origin laws, but it was superior to a body of origin laws. So, this is the starting point and secret of the fusion of light and darkness. At this moment, Lin Feng was enlightened. Chapter 1980. The fusion of light and darkness was too difficult. Lin Feng had tried countless times and relied on forced fusion. It was like a marshal controlling two opposing armies. As long as he was careless, the two armies would fight. Such forced fusion depended on the marshal's ability, which was the controller himself. The stronger one's control would be, and the more powerful the fusion of light and darkness would be. However, it wasn't a long-term solution. This was because true power did not rely on control, but on stimulation, on drawing it in. It was turning 10 into 100 or 10 million, not 10 into 1. Now, the nomological body had fused into one, and the light and darkness origins had condensed into the body's original power. His every move carried the power of light and darkness origins. It was light and darkness, and naturally, it was extremely compatible. It has changed the fusion in essence. With the body as the carrier and the nomological body as the foundation, the fusion of light and darkness begins at the beginning of power. At this moment, Lin Feng finally understood how Ancestor One Qian could perform it as he wished. Qi. Lin Feng's hand blade quickly slashed. Every blade contained the vigorous power of light and darkness origins, perfectly fusing into one. He didn't compress it or forcefully control it. Instead, he broke it into parts and turned it into a new power. My life level has increased by a lot. Lin Feng felt that his body had taken a big step forward. It was completely different from when he obtained the light, nomological body. This time, it was as if he had risen to a higher level. His life level had already surpassed that of an ordinary 9-star expert. He could see higher and further, and his realm had increased greatly. This is my true bloodline, the light and darkness body. Lin Feng closed his eyes, and every move of the myriad obscurity heavenly blade appeared clearly in his mind. At this moment, he had new insights and new experiences. The myriad obscurity heavenly blade relied on the fusion of light and darkness origins to unleash its power. Even the fourth move, boundless weight, that he couldn't comprehend before, had a new understanding. It wasn't just because of the light and darkness body, but also because of the increase in his life level, which made him completely reborn. Now, I should be able to defeat Fourth Brother. Lin Feng smiled. His strength had increased by at least twofold. Fourth Brother was about 30 to 50% stronger than him, and that was assuming he went all out. But now, even if he went all out and used the last move of Boundless Heaven and Earth, he had absolute confidence in winning. However, this was nothing. His opponent was a Destiny race elite ranked in the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list, an ancient clan that had existed since the Origin Awakened continent. Time passed, and countless powerful races fell. However, the Destiny race still stood tall, as steady as a boulder. In the face of such a clan, his current strength was far from enough. It won't take much time. There are still 22 months left. As Lin Feng comprehended his new strength, he pondered the path he would take in the future. He had originally planned to comprehend the Thunder Laws, but now he had to give up on that. This was because he felt that the body of light and darkness was already perfect. He was afraid that the body of Thunder Laws could no longer be integrated. In addition, his life form had already reached a new level. Even if he comprehended all 6 Thunder Origin Daos, it would only be icing on the cake. The increase in his life form would probably only be a little bit. In Calming Heart Lake, cultivating anything else was undoubtedly a waste, even if it was the extremely precious Myriad Heaven path. Here, comprehending the laws was the most effective. He would be able to make full use of this cultivation ground. Since he could not comprehend the Thunder Laws, he would continue to comprehend the next stage of the laws of light and darkness. 100,000 Origin Daos. Of the 6 Daos of light, my deepest comprehension is the Tao of light. Of the 6 Daos of darkness, my deepest comprehension is the Tao of darkness. Right now, my comprehension of the Tao of darkness is the deepest and strongest of the 12 Daos of light and darkness. Its aptitude is extremely great. It is most suitable for me to comprehend the first 100,000 Origin Daos. Lin Feng made his decision very quickly. Of the 12 Daos of light and darkness, 11 remained at the first stage of great perfection. Only the Tao of darkness had reached the second stage because of the fusion with the Nightmare Blood Crystal. First stage of great perfection, just comprehended great perfection. Second stage of great perfection, break into pieces, comprehend 100,000 origin points. Third stage of great perfection, dissect 100,000 origin points, comprehend the essence of the laws. Fourth stage of great perfection, connect 100,000 origin points, then condense them into laws, finally reaching 100,000 origin realm experts. In the first volume of the Wanxian Way, there is a simple introduction to reaching 100,000 origin realm experts. It was indeed very simple, because Ancestor Wanxian had already reached an even higher level. In his hands, not only could he freely combine 100,000 origin points, he could even combine different origin points. I wonder if I can reach the third stage in 22 months. Lin Feng wanted to know very much. 100,000 origin realm experts were far more difficult than great perfection. One was the top of the all, while the other was the colossal bottom. They formed the entire all. The difference in difficulty was like the difference between heaven and earth. With Lin Feng's current level of existence, it was not difficult to comprehend great perfection. However, he had already comprehended the laws of light and darkness, so the other laws were no longer of much use to him. Lin Feng had a feeling that as long as he could comprehend 100,000 origin realm experts, his battle prowess would skyrocket. However, it was not easy. In the first month after comprehending 100,000 origin realm experts, Lin Feng had only managed to dissect 300 origin points. In the second month, his speed only increased slightly, reaching 500. He gradually adapted afterwards, and in the fourth month, he surpassed 1,000. However, he was still far from being able to dissect 100,000 origin points. At a rate of 1,000 origin points per month, he would need a full 100 months. And this was under the circumstances of Calming Heart Lake. If he was outside, his speed would be negligible. A year passed very quickly. I've just dissected 15,000 origin points. Lin Feng sighed. His speed was even slower than he had imagined. However, he could not rush it. After all, this was a level higher than great perfection. Every single origin point was a law itself, so dissecting it was extremely difficult. 100,000 origin points was not a small number, but it was not a large number either. With my current speed, I can already reach 1,500 origin points per month. Lin Feng stabilized his mind and continued dissecting. 1500, 1600, 1700, his speed steadily increased. After all, every origin point had some similarities. Lin Feng had also found a few methods to increase his speed. His dissecting speed had increased slightly, but not by much, until the end of the last 10 months. 33057 origin points. Lin Feng sighed and nodded in satisfaction. No matter what, he had already dissected a third of the origin points. As a result of his first dissection, it was already very good. While Lin Feng leapt out, his body light, he suddenly let out a soft, he felt a familiar aura standing outside Calming Heart Lake. Brother sure? Lin Feng was rather curious. Chapter 1981. Whoosh. Lin Feng appeared at the entrance of Tranquil Lake. In front of him, the huge figure that was as steady as a rock was his second brother, Shi Dingshan. Brother Shi, are you waiting for me? Lin Feng smiled and walked over. Shi Dingshan put his hands behind his back and smiled. Yes, I have something to tell you. What is it? Lin Feng was curious. Shi Dingshan's eyes were bright as he said word by word. The turbulent void has opened. Lin Feng was stunned. Although he knew that the turbulent void would open within 10 years, he didn't expect it to open while he was cultivating. How long has it been? Lin Feng quickly calmed down. 1 year, Shi Dingshan said. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. Every sip and every peck was destined. Originally, he was only going to cultivate at Tranquil Lake for 1 year. Now that he had cultivated for 2 years, he missed it. It was a pity that he couldn't enter such a grand event. Shi Dingshan laughed heartily. Actually, you don't have to be disappointed, seventh brother. The turbulent void will open for at least 3,000 years, and at most 1 era. There's plenty of time. Although many experts will enter immediately, some will enter later because of some matters. 3,000 years? 1 era? Lin Feng was slightly relieved. If it was only 10 or 100 years, it would be a pity to miss this 1 year. However, a full 3,000 years, or even an era, a mere 1 year was naturally negligible. The opportunity to enter is good, but that's for 7-star and 8-star experts, Shi Dingshan said. The real treasures are in the depths of the turbulent void. It's not easy to get them. Only those who are fated can get them. Once you enter the depths of the turbulent void, there are dangers everywhere. Some could be trapped in dangerous places for thousands of years. So you don't have to be too anxious. Take it slow and improve your strength first. It won't be too late to enter when you have enough confidence. Lin Feng nodded. Since he missed it, there was no hurry. Shi Dingshan was right. The treasures in the outer layer of the turbulent void were at most elite true treasures. At most, they were ordinary, excellent, true treasures. Even if he got them, they might not be suitable for him. The real opportunity and test were in the depths of the turbulent void. 3,000 years, an epic, time was very long. Right now, it was the time for him to make a breakthrough in his strength. It was better to increase his strength a little more than to enter early. Shi Dingshan suddenly asked, seventh brother, do you really need the quota from Tranquil Heart Lake for cultivation? Yes, what's wrong, brother Shi? Lin Feng asked. Shi Dingshan said, it's nothing. It's just that all the 9-star experts in the clan, except for me, have entered the turbulent void. So every 10 years, you can use the quota of the 9-star experts, including mine. Shi Dingshan smiled. The patriarch is not here, and I have to take charge of the entire tribe. I don't have the time to enter the Tranquil Heart Lake. Furthermore, I've already obtained a body of laws, so I don't need the Tranquil Heart Lake anymore. Every 10 years, we 9-star experts have a 3 to 4 year quota. If you need it, I can make the decision to fill up your quota. Of course, you can also decide to enter the chaotic void right now. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. In other words, out of every 10 years, he could cultivate in the Calming Heart Lake for 4 years. Then I'll have to trouble Brother Shi to fill up my quota. I want to continue cultivating. Lin Feng smiled. There was no need to compete for a city or a place. To be honest, even if he didn't enter the chaotic void, he could do it. Strength was the real key. Okay, Shi Dingshan smiled and patted Lin Feng on the shoulder. In fact, I don't want you to enter so early. It's a dangerous place. Even Big Brother may not be able to come back safely. No one knows what will happen. Before Big Brother left, he mentioned to me that you are the future hope and successor of the human tribe of the Milky Way. He won't stop you from entering the chaotic void, but he hopes that you can improve your strength more and have enough life-saving means before entering. In addition, Big Brother and Fourth Brother left something for you. Lin Feng was slightly stunned. It was understandable that Big Brother, the patriarch Dong Wang, left something for him. Fourth Brother Song, you left something for him? Shi Dingshan smiled as if he had guessed what Lin Feng was thinking. Fourth Brother is not a bad person, but he has a strong ego. He asked me to pass a message to you. What the patriarch said is one thing, but he won't go back on his words if he loses. Swish, Shi Dingshan then took out a dazzling crystal and handed it over. This is the cloudy sky crystal. It's very similar to the nightmare blood crystal you obtained in the grand auction, except that it's a treasure of light. It's as valuable as a superior treasure. However, since you already have a nomological body, the heaven crystal of cloud is of little use to you. It's most useful for 8-star experts who have yet to comprehend the path of light. Refining it will allow you to comprehend the path of light and reach the great perfection realm. You can go to the contribution tower and exchange the heaven crystal of cloud for contribution points and other treasures you need. Lin Feng took the heaven crystal of cloud and felt the surging light energy. He smiled. No need. This is suitable for me. Refining it to reach the great perfection realm? What a joke. That would be a waste. Such treasures were best used at the great perfection realm and could easily reach the second stage of the great perfection realm. It could even be used to obtain 100,000 source points. Exchanging it for contribution points was too wasteful. Oh, although Shi Dingshan was curious, he did not ask further. Also, Seventh Brother can use the 1-year quota for the Tranquil Heart Lake that Fourth Brother lost to you in the 3rd year, which is now. That's not very good, right? Lin Feng frowned. Shi Dingshan shook his head. Fourth Brother has a strong ego. If you respect him, just accept it. Okay. Lin Feng did not hesitate. The yearly quota for the Tranquil Heart Lake was not much. As for what Big Brother is giving you, it's a quota of 600 days every 10 years. Shi Dingshan smiled. Actually, it's not all Big Brother. Third sister, Fourth Brother, Fifth sister, and Sixth Brother all have share. Lin Feng was slightly startled. Shi Dingshan said, you should know that every 10 years, we 9-star martial artists have a quota of 100 days for the Tranquil Heart Lake. Now that Big Brother and Third Sister have entered the turbulent void and won't be back for a while, all of it has been transferred to you. Lin Feng could not help but laugh. Although every 9-star expert had a quota of 100 days every 10 years, it could not be stored. In other words, if one did not go during these 10 years, it would be gone. Therefore, the patriarch did him a favor and gave it to him. Big Brother is the patriarch after all. He has to do things according to the rules. Shi Dingshan smiled. He also left 500,000 contribution points and an extra 1,000 days of Tranquil Heart Lake quota for you. This is already an exception. However, Seventh Brother, your talent is outstanding. You even defeated Fourth Brother in the arena. Everyone in the clan admires and respects you. Therefore, no matter how much Big Brother treats you, the clan will not say anything. Actually, the key is still yourself. Shi Dingshan patted Lin Feng's shoulder and smiled. Go. If you really need the quota of the Tranquil Heart Lake, come and find me. You can also exchange it in the contribution tower. Go to the contribution tower when you are free. Big Brother has left a treasure for you. Thank you, Brother Shi. Lin Feng felt a warm feeling in his heart. The human tribe of the Milky Way was like a big family, harmonious and harmonious. This feeling was very comfortable. Chapter 1982. Not in a hurry to go to the contribution tower, Lin Feng returned to Tranquil Heart Lake. Every 10 years, there would be a total of 4 years for him to cultivate. Lin Feng was quite satisfied. To him, this was even better than being given a few outstanding true treasures. He was also clear that this was because the clan leader had taken special care of him and nurtured him. However, as Brother Shi had said, the key was still strength. If he had not defeated Sonya on the battle stage, The patriarch would not have spent so much money on him no matter how much he valued him. Now, he was practically nurturing him as his successor. In less than 2 years, I have already dissected 1/3 of the 100,000 Dark Demon Law source points. Now that I am very familiar with it, the speed of dissecting the source points will be even faster. In less than 4 years, I will be able to dissect all 100,000 source points and reach the 3rd stage of the Great Perfection Realm. Lin Feng returned to Tranquil Heart Lake and continued to cultivate. There were still 2 years left, and he would not waste it. Dissecting 100,000 source points was destined to be a very long process, but he had time now. The opening of the chaotic void space in advance allowed Lin Feng to relax. So what if he could not enter immediately? In fact, it did not matter much. If it was his, it could not escape. What happened in the void turbulence and what happened in the outside world were not important. Lin Feng was very clear that only with enough strength could he truly achieve his goal and obtain everything he wanted. Strength was the most fundamental thing. 2 years passed very quickly. To Lin Feng, it was just a blink of an eye. The 100,000 source points comprehension had already exceeded the 2,000 source points per month, but there was still a long way to go before dissecting all 100,000 source points. Now, I have dissected 77478 source points. There are still 22,522 source points left. With the 2,000 source points per month calculation, I still need more than 11 months, close to a year's time. I have to wait for another 6 years. Lin Feng was not disappointed. 6 years was just a blink of an eye to him. He was already very satisfied with such progress. In the next 10 years, he would be able to comprehend 100,000 source points and reach the 3rd stage of the Great Perfection Realm. Before going back to cultivate the Thousand Heaven Path, I'll make a trip to the Contribution Tower. Lin Feng left the Tranquil Heart Lake. An 8-star martial artist waited respectfully at the lakeside entrance, not daring to take half a step inside. Lord Lin Feng. Upon seeing Lin Feng, he hurriedly bowed. Lin Feng nodded. "Let's go in," after which he took a step with his right foot and left. Lord Lin Feng is truly amiable. The nervous 8-star powerhouse looked at Lin Feng's departing figure with eyes full of envy and admiration. The current Lin Feng was the idol of countless clansmen in the clan. At such a young age, he already possessed incomparably terrifying strength. Even King Tsang was no match for him. His future was limitless, and in the clan, he was already hailed as the successor of the clan leader. The Contribution Tower was magnificent and glorious. This was a very important treasure land in the Tranquil Heart world, where the important wealth of the Milky Way's human clan was stored. Here, only clansmen of 7-star and above could enter. Ordinary clansmen didn't even have the right to enter. Clansmen could accumulate contribution points in exchange for treasures in the Contribution Tower. They could also exchange treasures for the clan to obtain contribution points. The wealth of a clan. Lin Feng looked at the towering building in front of him with sparkling eyes. The treasures in the Contribution Tower were accumulated by generations of ancestors of the Milky Way's human clan, including purchases at the auction house, external collection, and clan contributions. Among them, the clan leader, Dong Wang, made the most contributions. After all, he had entered the void turbulence the most times and was the strongest. Many treasures were useless to him, but they were very useful to the clan's experts and even 9-star experts. In the Contribution Tower, the only currency was contribution points. Mo Ta greets Lord Lin Feng. The person in charge of guarding the Contribution Tower was an 8-star clansman, Mo Ta. When he saw Lin Feng, he bowed respectfully. The ordinary-looking young man in front of him was the most popular figure in the clan. "Hello, Mo Ta." Lin Feng greeted him. Mo Ta revealed a smile. "The deputy clan leader has instructed. Lord Lin Feng, please follow me." Lin Feng nodded. "Sorry to trouble you." "It's no trouble at all. Lord, please come in," Mo Ta said. Under Mo Ta's guidance, Lin Feng quickly entered the Contribution Tower. There was a secret passage and a large formation at the entrance. If one were to force their way in, they would trigger the formation. Without a guide, one would not be able to enter. Even with Lin Feng's current strength, it would take a lot of energy to force his way in. After all, the contribution tower was the treasure trove of the Milky Way's human clan. Its importance was self-evident. After passing through layers of grotesque and variegated passageways, there were specks of light in front, dotted with a thin layer of space. Emota retreated slightly to one side and made a pleased gesture. "This is the main hall of the contribution tower, Lord Lin Feng." Lin Feng nodded and stepped in. As if passing through a layer of invisible space passageway, he immediately entered a dazzling, milky white palace. Treasures were neatly placed all around the palace. Various types of energy reflected each other's brilliance and were of great value. In terms of quantity, there were at least tens of thousands of them. This is the fourth palace. The treasures placed here are all below 1,000 contribution points, Mo Ta introduced. 1,000 contribution points. Lin Feng nodded slightly. In other words, it was about 10 million void crystals, which was the level of ordinary true treasures. For 7-star elite, this was a huge treasure trove with unlimited potential. Every item had a good use and was suitable for ordinary 7-star clansmen who had just entered the contribution tower. "Lord Lin Feng, this way please." Mo Ta continued to lead the way. Going up, it was the second palace. Each palace occupied several floors of the contribution tower. The bright colors were like beautiful crystals that adorned this exquisite palace, dazzling anyone who saw them. There were about a few thousand treasures here, which was more than 10 times less than the first palace. However, the value of each item was far more than that. This is the third palace. The treasures placed here are from 1,000 contribution points to 10,000 contribution points. Emota looked at Lin Feng and said respectfully, "Lord Lin Feng, do you want to choose?" Lin Feng's gaze swept across. 10,000 contribution points was about 100 million void crystals. In other words, the treasures here were at the level of ordinary elite true treasures or top-notch ordinary true treasures. However, they were still not very useful to him. Continue. Lin Feng did not waste any time. "Okay, Lord Lin Feng." Emota also guessed the answer. The third palace that ordinary 7-star and even 8-star elites would scramble for was too ordinary for this future pillar of the clan in front of him. The clan leader had bestowed treasures time and time again, and they were all excellent true treasures. The contribution points and quota of Tranquil Heart Lake were also given. Emota was very envious, but he also knew that this was what Lin Feng deserved. With Lin Feng's talent and strength, even if he was not in the Milky Way human tribe, he would receive the highest level of treatment in any major force, because this was his value. Chapter 1983. The Second Palace. Only those with a certain status in the clan could enter. Although there were only a few hundred treasures inside, each of them was a rare treasure that would cause quite a stir in an auction. 10,000 contribution points to 100,000 contribution points. It was equivalent to 100 million to 1 billion void crystals, which was the level of a true top-tier elite true treasure. It could even be exchanged for the worst outstanding true treasure. There were many unique treasures in this palace. For Lin Feng, some of them were quite attractive, such as the phoenix fruit, green coconut flower, dark light, and so on. These were all fruits of heaven and earth that were rarely seen in auctions. For Lin Feng, who had just broken through to 9-star and was in need of supreme-grade fruits of heaven and earth, it was undoubtedly sweet dew. However, the price was not cheap either. Let's continue. Lin Feng was not in a hurry to exchange and continued to go up. Further up, near the top of the contribution tower, was where the first palace of the treasury was located. Only 9-star experts or 8-star experts with outstanding merits could enter. The value of the treasures, 100,000 contribution points to 1 million contribution points. It was equivalent to 1 billion to 10 billion void crystals. Basically, these treasures were the last items in an auction. Each of them was enough to make the major forces fight over them. And here, there were a total of 33 treasures. A clan with a long history is indeed rich. Lin Feng sighed. Among the 33 treasures, there were 5 book-type treasures, 16 outstanding true treasures, 8 peculiar items, and 4 fruits of heaven and earth. The contribution points varied, ranging from 100,000 to 990,000. Sir Lin Feng, this sacred Feather King armor was given to you by the clan leader. Mo Ta stopped in front of an armor that emitted endless light and respectfully retreated to the side with envy in his eyes. In addition, Sir Lin Feng, you can choose any one of the remaining 15 outstanding true treasures. Lin Feng nodded. Any one of the treasures was given to him by the clan leader Dong Huang for the second time. This sacred Feather King armor was given to him by the clan leader before entering the turbulent void. Right after I defeated fourth brother Sangya. Lin Feng smiled. During the battle with fourth brother Sangya, he had also realized that the armor's defense was a problem. Big brother was experienced, so he naturally saw it more clearly. After all, the onlooker sees more clearly. A good armor would not only improve one's defense and survivability, but it would also allow one to attack without holding back. Especially after entering the turbulent void, he needed to increase his defensive power. An outstanding true treasure. Lin Feng took the sacred Feather King armor, and his eyes lit up. This was a light elemental battle armor, and it resonated with his body of laws. As soon as he touched it, he felt a sense of joy and compatibility. It was as if the armor had become one with him. Because of the body of light and darkness, Lin Feng knew very well that the level of his light and darkness body was even higher than the law of light body. It was naturally easy for him to fuse with an outstanding light attribute treasure. It wasn't the only outstanding treasure. There were 4 other treasures in the first palace that were compatible with him. Big brother is really considerate. Lin Feng put away the sacred Feather King armor with a smile. If Big brother didn't give this outstanding true treasure to him, he would definitely exchange for it. After all, it was too useful. There's still one more to choose. Lin Feng's eyes swept across and quickly fell on the 4 treasures that were compatible with him. There were 3 outstanding true treasures and a strange black stone that looked like a fossil. 2 of them were light elemental, and 1 was dark elemental, so they were very compatible with him. Light elemental outstanding true treasure. Dark flying wings, 170,000 contribution points. Light elemental outstanding true treasure, 12-colored belt, 400,000 contribution points. Darkness elemental outstanding true treasure, soul devouring sword, 550,000 contribution points. Darkness elemental nightmare stone, 350,000 contribution points. Lin Feng browsed through them one by one. Of the 2 light elemental outstanding true treasures, one was a flying type treasure that was compatible with the path of light, and the other was a control type treasure that was compatible with the path of light. Their prices weren't high, and their average price was lower than the 2 darkness type treasures. However, the 2 darkness type treasures had more restrictions. Among them, the soul-devouring halberd was a weapon. Although it was worth a lot of contribution points, which meant that it was valuable, it was useless to him. He couldn't just exchange it for contribution points, right? That would be too immoral. As for the Nightmare Stone, it was similar to the Nightmare Demon Blood Crystal, but slightly inferior. Outstanding true treasures were generally divided into 3 levels. Those below 2 billion void crystals were ordinary outstanding true treasures. Those between 2 and 5 billion void crystals were advanced outstanding true treasures, and those above 5 billion void crystals were top-tier outstanding true treasures. The dark flying wings were the most ordinary. He already had the wings of warmth and the profound light shuttle, so he definitely wouldn't choose it. Although the soul-devouring sword was valuable, it wasn't suitable for him because it was a weapon, so he wouldn't choose it. The remaining ones, 12-colored belt and Nightmare Stone, were of similar value. I want the Nightmare Stone. Lin Feng quickly made a decision. Although the Nightmare Stone's value was slightly lower, it would be more useful to him. Refining the Nightmare Stone could improve the cultivation level of the Path of Oblivion, one of the 6 paths of darkness. 12-colored belt wasn't bad, but he had the Mashua boat, the Wings of Warmth, which was the top of the top-tier, outstanding, true treasures. Plus, he had the Brahma Realm's super strong field, so it was enough. More would be the icing on the cake, but less wouldn't matter. Okay, Lord Linfeng. Although Emota was surprised, he didn't ask further. In his opinion, since Lord Linfeng had the body of the Law of Light, he should have chosen either the dark flying wings or the 12-colored belt. However, he chose the Nightmare Stone, which was the opposite of the Great Path of Light. What was the use of it? Emota was confused and muttered to himself, Lord Linfeng is indeed beyond our estimation. As the saying goes, extraordinary people do extraordinary things. Impressive, impressive. If Linfeng knew what Emota was thinking, he would probably laugh. However, no matter what decision he made now, others would think that he was unfathomable and not inexplicable. This was the influence brought about by strength. By the way, how do I exchange for the quota of Tranquil Heart Lake? Linfeng asked curiously. Every 10,000 contribution points can be exchanged for 100 days, Emota said. Not much. Linfeng nodded. Emota smiled bitterly in his heart. This wasn't much. 10,000 contribution points was equivalent to 100 million void crystals in the outside world. Even a 9-star expert would need at least 10 years to earn 100 million void crystals. But it could only be exchanged for 100 days of Tranquil Heart Lake quota. Every 10 years, Tranquil Heart Lake would give out 100 days of quota. However, Emota didn't know that. 100 million void crystals for 100 days to Linfeng. There was nothing more worthwhile than this. He was too rich. Is this the top floor of the contribution tower? Linfeng asked suddenly. Not really. Emota bowed slightly. At the top of the contribution tower, where the secret chamber at the top of the tower is, the top-tier treasures of the clan are hidden. Every one of them is priceless. Swish! Linfeng's eyes lit up instantly. Chapter 1984. Every clan naturally had their own treasures. For example, the treasures that the Tsang Dragon Auction House took out were indeed rare and priceless. However, the true treasures could be passed down by the clan and would naturally not appear in the world. After all, no matter how much money there was, it was still money. The Heavenly Tea Pavilion and the Tsang Dragon Auction House were the two wealthiest forces, but their strength was still the weakest among the 8 forces. The secret room at the top of the tower. Linfeng was very interested. Can I enter? Although he was a 9-star expert and should have been given full access, he had just joined and might not be able to come into contact with the clan's foundation. Of course you can, Emota said. Sir, you can freely enter and exit any part of the contribution tower. Please follow me. Linfeng nodded and followed. Don't use people you don't trust. Linfeng felt a warmth in his heart towards the clan leader, Donghuang's trust. Since he joined the clan, Donghuang had spared no effort to nurture him. He gave him treasures, a place to cultivate, and even taught him alone. He would remember this kindness in his heart. If there's a chance, I will repay you 100-fold. Linfeng was naturally not an ungrateful person. He already had a sense of belonging to the clan now, and it was like a home to him. He very much hoped to enter the turbulent void as soon as possible and fight side by side with his big brother and sister. However, improving his strength was still the most important thing. The stronger he was, the better he could protect and contribute to the clan. This is the place, Sir Linfeng. I don't have the authority to enter. I will wait for you outside. Emota respectfully retreated to the side. Linfeng's eyes flashed, and he nodded slightly. Now, he had arrived at the top of the contribution tower. The secret room at the top of the tower. Linfeng stepped in. The secret room was in the shape of a triangular cone, perfectly overlapping with the top of the contribution tower. Outside the secret room at the top of the tower, there was a simple 18 gold amplification formation that could be entered. This is where the clan's priceless treasures are kept. Linfeng's eyes shone brightly. What entered his eyes was a huge axe that was flashing with golden light. Mysterious golden patterns were engraved on the handle of the axe, and the body of the axe was covered with thick blood that could not be dissolved. The entire golden axe gave people a kind of arrogant and desolate aura, as if it had a soul. What a powerful axe! Lin Feng sighed. His gaze fell on the introduction section. There was a clear and simple introduction. It was a pinnacle true treasure, the supreme brilliant axe. It was beyond the level of an outstanding true treasure. This was also the first time Lin Feng had seen a so-called pinnacle true treasure that was stronger than his wings of warmth. 3,000,000 contribution points. Lin Feng sighed. He couldn't exchange for it, nor would he do so. After all, he wasn't proficient in the axe realm. If all the treasures are worth 3,000,000 contribution points, I'll go bankrupt just by exchanging for one. Lin Feng's gaze moved away from the golden giant and scanned the surroundings. 3,000,000 contribution points was equivalent to 30 billion void crystals. It was too expensive. 1, 2,000,000 1, 8,000,000 2, 3,000,000. 3, 8,000,000. Damn, 5,000,000. Lin Feng's gaze fell on the last treasure, and he smiled bitterly. It turned out that 3,000,000 contribution points wasn't the highest. This golden giant axe was only ranked third among these priceless treasures. There were a total of 6 priceless treasures, and each of them was extremely expensive, with the price exceeding 1,000,000 contribution points, which was equivalent to 10 billion void crystals. But in fact, even if one were to pay twice the price outside, one wouldn't be able to buy any of the priceless treasures here. This was the foundation of a clan, and only the super experts of the clan were qualified to exchange for it. A treasure worth 50 billion void crystals. Lin Feng was most curious about this one, and he walked over directly. He didn't even think about exchanging for it, because even if he sold all his elite true treasures, it wouldn't be enough. There were 12 light spots floating in the air. Between each light spot, there were countless light rays that were connected, and the 12 light spots formed a perfect whole. The faint luster was transparent and condensed into the shape of a sphere, but it wasn't a real sphere, as it was composed of light. Light attribute true treasure, 12-star skies. Lin Feng let out a sigh of relief. This treasure was definitely suitable for him. His light and darkness body was faintly fluctuating, but it wasn't strong. It wasn't because it didn't fit, but because the gap was too big. With his current strength, he might not be able to fully fit this true treasure, let alone unleash its power. Even if I exchange for 12-star skies, I won't be able to use it. Lin Feng wasn't greedy. No matter how sharp a treasure sword was, it was useless if it couldn't be used. The first condition of a treasure was that it was suitable for him. It was best if he could use it. 3. 8,000,000 contribution points. Lin Feng moved slightly, and then came in front of a blood-red scale-shaped fruit. It was oval in shape, about the size of a palm, and the surface of the fruit was condensed with a layer of scales, just like the scales of a fish. This scale-shaped fruit was blood-red, as if blood was flowing through it. The energy it contained was extremely powerful. A fruit is more precious than an outstanding true treasure. Lin Feng sighed, and then his eyes fell on the introduction. Blood centipede fruit, from the land of blood centipede deep in the void turbulence, has the power to seize the creation of heaven and earth. Only 8-star strength can refine it and evolve it into a perfect bloodline. After the perfect evolution, the user will return to the initial stage of cultivation, have the body of a blood centipede, the talent of blood centipede, and a natural dark blood body, and the talent of darkness is perfect. Blood centipede fruit from the land of blood centipede. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. What a strange heaven and earth fruit. Ordinary heaven and earth fruits of blood centipede could at most increase and change the bloodline, but the blood centipede fruit could completely erase the original bloodline and replace it with the bloodline of a blood centipede. It was simply unbelievable. There were such changes in the bloodline, but basically it was because the energy of the heaven and earth fruit was too strong, and it directly swallowed the host. If a clansman stays at 8-star level and can't advance anymore, eating and refining the blood centipede fruit will make him extraordinary, but with the cultivation experience and realm, it won't be difficult to return to 8-star level. With a stronger talent, it's only a matter of time before he advances to 9-star level. Lin Feng thought inwardly. If used correctly, The blood centipede fruit was an extremely magical top-grade treasure, enough to make people go crazy. It was definitely worth the price. But I don't have any use for it. Lin Feng naturally wouldn't refine the blood centipede fruit, not only because he didn't have time to waste, but also because his bloodline was originally better than the blood centipede. Speaking of which, although he only saw 3 items, these were called priceless treasures. They were absolutely genuine and impeccable. The one worth 3 million. Lin Feng looked over, his heart beating fast. There were 6 priceless treasures here, and he could sense 3 of them. Among them, the 12-star sky, which was worth 5 million contribution points, was the weakest. As for the other 2 items, their senses were much stronger. They were all suitable for him. Lin Feng's figure moved and arrived. Looking at the priceless treasures in front of him, his eyes completely lit up. Chapter 1985. It was a star-shaped treasure that looked like a whirlpool. Every time it absorbed, it seemed to have a life force. It did not have light energy or dark energy, and it was not a pinnacle true treasure either. It was a special treasure. Meteorite whirlpool. Lin Feng looked at the place where it was introduced, his eyes shining. It originates from the depths of the void turbulence. Meteorite turbulence is a danger zone. Even after countless eras, only 3 pieces have appeared in the void turbulence. One is missing, one is in the hands of the destiny race, and one is in my family. A space cultivation treasure. Unable to recognize an owner. Release a trace of your consciousness into the meteorite whirlpool. You can comprehend the mysteries of space law. Even if your aptitude is ordinary, you can easily comprehend the true meaning of space with this treasure. Amazing. Lin Feng sighed. His space aptitude was at least above average. If combined with the black whirlpool, it could be considered excellent. However, until now, he had only comprehended the high-level true meaning of space and had yet to comprehend the true meaning of space. However, with this meteorite whirlpool, he could directly observe the true meaning of space and the true meaning of space. Comprehending it was easy. The true meaning of space was very important. Not only did it increase one's life level, but it was also something that the Master of Black region could not obtain. In addition, the true meaning of space was stronger than other elemental laws. Previously, he was able to defeat Fourth Brother because of the 2 outstanding true treasures that contain the true meaning of space. Unable to recognize an owner, so it can only be used as a cultivation treasure. Lin Feng looked at the contribution points above. A total of 3 million. He could not help but smile bitterly. Compared to the blood-devouring fruit and the 12-star sky, it was much cheaper. However, the price was still astronomical. He could exchange for it. After all, Patriarch Dongwang had given him the largest amount of contribution points, which was 2 million. However, was it worth spending all his contribution points to exchange for it? There are only 3 in total. One is missing, and one is in the hands of the destiny race. Lin Feng smiled. Perhaps one day, he would be able to get that one from the destiny race. At the moment, he was not in a hurry. His life level was high enough. Whether or not he could comprehend the true meaning of space was not important. Good steel should be used to the blade. Now, he had to maximize his contribution points. The last one. Lin Feng looked at the black speckled wood not far away. He directly skipped over the treasure that was worth 8 million contribution points. He didn't feel that it was compatible with him, so even if it was valuable, it wouldn't be that valuable. On the other hand, although this pitch-black spotted wood was the cheapest, but his senses were the deepest, it was very strange. Incomparably abundant dark energy. Lin Feng stared at the pitch-black spotted wood. It wasn't an outstanding true treasure. In fact, there weren't many true treasures here. Instead, they were all unique treasures. On the pitch-black mottled wood, black dots were densely packed. They were extremely small, and from afar, they looked like specks. But that was not the case. 100,000 origin points. Lin Feng's heart shuddered. If it was before he cultivated 100,000 Genesis points, he might not have known the secret of this pitch-black mottled wood. But now, he knew everything. Murong Yuanxin. Lin Feng looked at the introduction and said, This is the only essence hidden in the main trunk of the unique life form of the void of turbulence, the demon tree. 12 nine-star experts killed it at the cost of 1 dead and 3 heavily injured. A cultivation treasure. Clansmen who are proficient in the dark element can exchange for it. It contains the mystery of the realm after the great perfection. Lin Feng sighed softly. It was too powerful. 12 nine-star experts, 1 dead and 3 seriously injured, killed the Murong tree and obtained the Murong Yuanshin. Judging from the price alone, it should have far exceeded the current price of 2 million contribution points. However, its applicability was very limited. First of all, it was only useful for clansmen who were proficient in the dark element. Second, it was only useful for cultivation treasures. Lastly, the ancestors of the Milky Way's human clan didn't know what the Murong Yuanshin was for. They only knew that it contained the mystery of the realm after the great perfection. Therefore, the price wasn't high. 2 million contribution points was far from the life of a 9-star expert. However, he wasn't very sure what the Murong Yuanshin's use was. After all, he couldn't make a clear judgment just by looking and feeling. However, he was sure that this Murong Yuanshin was 100% useful to him. Not to mention the feeling of compatibility between him and it, just the fact that 100,000 source points were engraved on it was already extraordinary. If I'm not wrong, the Murong tree, which is unique to this turbulent void, should have already reached the 100,000 source points realm. Lin Feng thought to himself, or perhaps its bloodline talent is at that level. However, it was useless. Realms were one thing, but battle prowess was an entirely different matter. The biggest weakness of plant life was that it couldn't move. Even if it could move, it was extremely slow. It was normal for it to be killed when facing the siege of 12 9-star experts. Speaking of which, the Murong tree was already very powerful. Of the 12 9-star experts who besieged it, 1 was dead and 3 were seriously injured. I wonder which great Tao of the 6 paths of darkness it is. Lin Feng pondered. As the Murong Yuanshin's heart was sealed, he couldn't accurately sense it. Therefore, he wasn't sure. It seemed to be the great Tao of darkness, the great Tao of weight, or the great Tao of dark matter. However, no matter which great Tao it was fine for him. His aptitude for the 6 paths of darkness was quite good. 2 million contribution points. Not much. Lin Feng locked onto the Murong Yuanshin without hesitation. Among the 6 priceless treasures in front of him, he could only afford 3 of them. The 8 million contribution point treasure was useless to him, and the 3 million contribution point meteorite whirlpool was too expensive. Overall, the 2 million contribution point Murong Yuanshin's heart was the best and the best price. Moreover, the value of the Murong Yuanshin's heart was greatly underestimated. Although it's not a pinnacle true treasure, it's a cultivation treasure like the meteorite whirlpool. Its real value is at least double or even more. Lin Feng was very sure that the Murong Yuanshin's real value was much more than what it was now. This was because the ancestors of the Milky Way's human tribe didn't know what the realm after perfection was. However, he knew 8 million contribution points. Apart from 2 million, I still have 6 million. Lin Feng directly broke the seal and took the Murong Yuanshin's heart. As soon as he touched it, he felt a surging dark aura. This was the energy of the path of oblivion. Unfortunately, it's not the path of dark demon. Although Lin Feng felt that it was a pity, he didn't take it to heart. It was good enough that he could exchange for it. His talent in the path of oblivion was second only to the path of dark demon. The remaining 6 million contribution points were enough for him to use. He could exchange for some fruits of heaven and earth, and then go to the first palace. Many of the 33 treasures could be used by him. The 12-colored belt, which was worth 400,000 contribution points, could be exchanged. The dark wings, which was worth 170,000 contribution points, was a bit useless, but could be exchanged. He would exchange for everything that needed to be exchanged. A lot of contribution points. Not bad. Lin Feng smiled. Although the 6 priceless treasures could only be exchanged for 1, to him, This trip was already a great harvest. Chapter 1986. After coming out of the secret room at the top of the pagoda, Lin Feng started his sweep. He started from the third palace, followed by the second palace, mainly to sweep the fruits of heaven and earth. Such a huge race had accumulated a lot over a long period of time, and some of them were even obtained in the void turbulence and couldn't be bought outside. The body was the foundation. The stronger the foundation, the greater the improvement in the future. Lin Feng's body was much stronger than ordinary 9-star strongman. He didn't look like a human strongman at all. Phoenix fruit, lead green coconut flower, dark ray. Lin Feng didn't stand on ceremony at all. Soon, he went from the second palace to the first palace and took away 2 outstanding light-type true treasures, the 12 colors belt and the dark wings. Together with the sacred Feather King armor, it was a total of 3 outstanding true treasures. Mo Ta's eyes stared straight at Lin Feng, and he was extremely envious. They couldn't even get a single elite true treasure. Lin Feng, on the other hand, got 3 outstanding true treasures right away, as well as various other treasures that weren't the least bit inferior to outstanding true treasures. For example, the Phoenix Stone, the Phoenix Heart, and so on. Although Lin Feng had just joined the Milky Way human tribe, his status, strength, and talent were all there. The clan leader naturally valued him. Such a strong man, if nurtured well, could make the Milky Way human tribe strong for thousands of eras. That's enough. After walking for 5 hours, Lin Feng called for a stop. He took all the treasures that were useful to him in one fell swoop, and he was satisfied. The harvest this time was too bountiful. How much left? Lin Feng asked. Sir, you have 185,500 contribution points, Mo Ta said respectfully. Lin Feng nodded. 10,000 contribution points could be exchanged for 100 days. His remaining contribution points could be exchanged for 1,855 days, which was enough. After all, he had a lot of quota for Tranquil Heart Lake. Plus, Big Brother and Third Sister had all gone to the Void Turbulence and given their quotas to him. Even if he used them up, he still had a lot of elite true treasures. He could just sell some. Now that everything was ready, he just needed to improve his strength. I can cultivate in peace now. Lin Feng couldn't wait, especially when he saw the priceless treasures in the secret room at the top of the pagoda. Almost all of them came from the deepest part of the void turbulence. He also wanted to enter. However, his strength was still lacking. At the very least, I need to reach second brother's level to be qualified to explore the depths of the void turbulence. Lin Feng's eyes revealed a strong desire for battle and anticipation. If I can enter the top 20 or even the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list, I will be able to truly obtain treasures in the chaotic void and peek into its secrets. Although the Patriarch didn't say anything, he was very clear about it. There was definitely a great secret within the chaotic void, and it was definitely not just a treasure. Thus, every time it opened, all of the top-notch elites on the Origin Awakening list would rush in like a flock of ducks. No one was willing to fall behind. However, there was no need for him to delve deeper into it. It would only mess up his heart. When he had sufficient strength, he would know everything. Lin Feng's current residence had already changed. Every 10 years, there would be a round. Not only would the quota for the Tranquil Heart Lake be redistributed, the Tranquil Heart Lake would also be distributed according to one's strength. Of course, the Tranquil Heart Pond could be challenged. However, no one was stupid enough to challenge Lin Feng and embarrass themselves. The current Lin Feng was already a pillar of support for the tribe. Defeating Song Ye had caused Lin Feng's reputation to soar and reach the peak. With Lin Feng's strength, he could logically obtain the number 4 Tranquil Heart Pond. However, he didn't do so. The number 7 Tranquil Heart Pond was enough. To Lin Feng, the Tranquil Heart Pond wasn't very useful. It was more of a symbol of status for the tribe. After all, his current cultivation relied on the Tranquil Heart Lake. Although the Tranquil Heart Pond was precious, it was far inferior to the Tranquil Heart Lake. I can finally cultivate the first volume of the Myriad Heaven Path. Lin Feng stepped into the time cultivation formation. In 6 years, he had 21,900 eras to cultivate in seclusion. Although the time spent cultivating in the tranquil heart lake was short, every second was a breakthrough. The resources within the time cultivation formation were scarce. Everything depended on oneself. Although there was a lot of time, it was more for polishing one's foundation and making one's strength more stable. With my soul's current level, not to mention 6 years, even if I enter for 60 years, it won't affect my body. Cultivating in the time cultivation formation was very stressful on one's soul. However, Lin Feng could already withstand it when he was at 8-star strength. It was naturally easier for him at 9-star strength. Although there were many treasures waiting to be combined, many treasures waiting to be used, and many saber techniques waiting to be improved, to Lin Feng, the most important thing now was Myriad Heaven Path. It originated from the efforts of ancestor Wangan. It was a secret technique that far exceeded the level of origin awakened continent. It described the cultivation of the path of light and darkness. It was perfectly compatible with his bloodline. The first volume required him to comprehend a total of 12 great Tao of light and darkness. It was terrifyingly difficult. In the entire origin awakened continent, I am probably the only one who is qualified to cultivate the Myriad Heaven Path. Lin Feng sighed softly. He smiled and closed his eyes. Swish, 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 in his mind, the contents of the first volume of the Myriad Heaven Path appeared. The densely packed words were clearly reflected in his soul. He had a deep understanding. When he received it previously, he could see it. However, it was like seeing an extremely profound painting. He could see everything but could not understand the content. Now he could gradually understand, because he had already met the basic requirements for cultivation. The entire Myriad Heaven Path was split into 3 parts. The Myriad Creation Cultivation part starts from the essence of light and darkness. Comprehend all the great Tao of light and darkness. Everything returns to one. The Universe Secret Technique part, the universe is clear. The secret techniques are endless. It contains all kinds of light and darkness secret techniques, as well as my own light and darkness fusion secret technique. My descendants can cultivate it and use it as a foundation to create their own secret techniques. You have to know that only the secret techniques created by oneself can unleash the strongest power. The light and darkness path proving part. I use light and darkness as the source to surpass the limit. I roam the universe until the limit of the heavenly Tao. However, I only prove the Tao, but have not broken through the Tao. My descendants remember that this part can be cultivated to surpass the limit. The 3 parts, each part was exquisite and could be said to be the crystallization of his efforts. The first part focused on cultivation. The essence of light and darkness was the foundation. Once the foundation was solid, one could cultivate and break through the waves like a hot knife through butter. If the foundation was not solid, the more one cultivated, the more dangerous it would be. It might even be shackled and hard to improve. The second part focused on combat. The secret techniques could be used to attack and defend. With Ancestor Wangan's level, the light and darkness secret techniques he collected were all top-notch in the universe. They were comparable to the secret techniques in the first palace of the Contribution Tower. They were even stronger. As for the light and darkness fusion secret technique that Ancestor Wangan created, there was no need to even mention it. As long as one cultivated it, it would shake the heavens and earth. The third chapter was the essence of the entire Wanxian Way. It talked about the fusion of the way of light and darkness. This was a cultivation technique that pointed directly at the limits of the way of heaven, surpassing the limits of the universe. Although Ancestor Wanxian was ultimately unable to take the final step, it did not affect its value in existence. To be able to surpass the limit was already very impressive, much less being able to cultivate to the limit of the heavenly Tao. Even if it was not the ultimate Tao, it was incomparably close. Chapter 1987. The 3 Wanxian Tao were all the essence and treasures. The first one started from the essence and polished the foundation. It had the greatest influence. It could be said that if the first Wanxiang was not cultivated to perfection, the second and third would be very difficult to cultivate. Start from the Wanxiang scripture. Lin Feng was not in a hurry to cultivate the second universe and the third Tao verification. The first volume of the Wanxiang scripture talks about how to go from the great perfection realm to the 100,000 origin realm. Lin Feng's mind clearly showed the information about the dark demon Tao. In the myriad scripture, there was everything from the 6 paths of light, such as the light speed halo, to the 6 paths of darkness, such as the darkness, heavy darkness, and dark demon. It started from dissecting the 100,000 origin points and connecting them to form the law all. Even the smallest details were extremely detailed. The 100,000 origin points is the foundation. The path of the heavenly Tao is vast and boundless. The so-called great perfection realm is only the tip of the law all, is only the beginning. It means that you have truly come into contact with the Tao of laws and have been recognized by the origin of laws. As the body of laws, your will is the will of laws. Remember, always have a respectful heart towards laws. Ancestor Wan Qian's words were deeply engraved in his soul. His steel-like handwriting was just like his body and will. Lin Feng already had a rough understanding of the Tao of laws. If one treated the Tao of laws as a superbrain, then obtaining the body of laws meant obtaining the right to use the superbrain. One could use a series of functions of the superbrain, but it was only the basic functions of the superbrain. To truly use the superbrain, what should one do? Dissecting the 100,000 origin points, learning the most basic settings and usage of the superbrain, it was like writing a program. Of course, the structure of the origin points of the Tao of laws was much harder than writing a program. Only by completely grasping the 100,000 origin points could one truly be considered a beginner, being able to use a part of the power of the superbrain. At that time, one would naturally be stronger than a great perfection realm martial artist who had just come into contact with the superbrain and obtained the basic rights. After that, one would gradually deepen their understanding and ability, unleashing the superbrain's power. There was no limit. Just like a person's wisdom and imagination, there was no limit. At least he could not see where the limit was. If he could see it, he would be at Ancestor Wan Qian's level, reaching the limit of the heavenly Tao. The Wanxiang chapter has a detailed analysis of each great Tao with 100,000 source points, but it is not very useful to me. Lin Feng gave it a try, but quickly skipped it. Dissecting 100,000 origin points in a standard cultivation environment was too difficult. Even with the detailed guidance of the Wanxiang chapter, it was still much slower than the dissection in the Calming Heart Lake. If not for the Calming Heart Lake, the analysis of the 100,000 Genesis points would be extremely important. However, it seemed rather useless now. After all, the explanation in the Wanxiang chapter was only a guide, and the true analysis was still on one's own body. As for cultivating in Calming Heart Lake, it did not matter whether he read the Myriad Manifestations chapter or not. This was because Calming Heart Lake could guide the Tao itself. The Calming Heart Lake was incomparably precious. However, none of them, including Patriarch Dong Wang, could see beyond the level of the Master of the Black Domain, so they did not know the value of Tranquil Heart Lake. However, the second half of the first volume of the Wanxiang chapter was still very useful. The analysis of the 100,000 source points relied on the Tranquil Heart Lake, and the 2x2 structure was not that important for one's comprehension of the origin source. After all, every martial artist who entered the fourth stage of the Absolute Realm would first have completed the analysis of the 100,000 source points. At this time, one had to rely more on one's comprehension of the origin source, experience, and a long period of cultivation. According to the Wanxiang chapter, the third stage of the Absolute Realm, which is the analysis of the 100,000 source points, takes the longest time. On the other hand, the 2x2 structure seems complicated, but because the 100,000 source points have already been analyzed, the speed is much faster. The key lies in the Calming Heart Lake. The Calming Heart Lake seemed unremarkable, but in fact, it was not inferior to the Destiny World, the Netherworld race's infernal realm, and other treasured lands. It also depended on the person and could not be generalized. The calming heart lake was more suitable for humans. For the destiny race, even if they had the calming heart lake, it was useless because they rarely cultivated the Tao of law. The same was true for the demon race. Even a Milky Way's human race did not recognize the treasure. The calming heart lake was most suitable for 7-star and 8-star martial artists. Big mistake. The calming heart lake was most suitable for 9-star martial artists. Lin Feng did not plan to cultivate the first volume of the Wanxiang chapter for the time being. As for the second volume of the Universe chapter, he could not cultivate it all. The Universe chapter mostly recorded light-type and dark-type secret techniques. There were as many martial artists in the universe as there were stars in the sky, and the number of secret techniques recorded was innumerable. For Ancestor Wangan to collect it, it was naturally not ordinary. Even so, there were still too many of them, billions of them. Any one of them was stronger than the secret techniques in the Contribution Tower, but at the same time, the requirements were higher. The basic requirement to cultivate every secret technique is to comprehend 100,000 source points. Lin Feng actually wanted to learn 1 or 2 of them to increase his battle strength, but the requirements were too high. However, as Ancestor Wangan said, the Absolute Realm was only the beginning and was the foundation of the Tao of Law. What secret techniques were the foundation? None. Ancestor Wangan did not care about those so-called secret techniques at all. Ancestor Wangan was only interested in the secret techniques after the 100,000 source points realm that had extraordinary aspects and outstanding structures. Just as he said in the Wangan Tao, the existence of these secret techniques was for reference, including the secret techniques he left behind. Using the secret techniques as reference, he could create a secret technique that belonged to him. No matter how good someone else's secret technique was, it was still someone else's secret technique. Only his own secret technique could unleash its greatest power. The secret techniques created by Ancestor don't necessarily require one to comprehend 100,000 source points. But the requirements are even higher. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. The other secret techniques required one to be at the origin realm at the very least. The secret techniques created by Ancestor Wangan could be used at the 4th stage of the Absolute Realm, and they were even more powerful than those at the origin realm. However, the requirement was the fusion of light and darkness, which was the chapter of Wei at the 2nd stage. Difficult. Mastering the chapter of Wei was extremely difficult. Just the laws of light and darkness required one to comprehend 100,000 source points, which was much more troublesome than the secret techniques of the origin realm. After all, 2 laws of light and darkness required much more time to reach the 4th stage than 1, not to mention that there was still the 3rd chapter, the chapter of Wei. There's no rush. Lin Feng placed more emphasis on cultivating the myriad obscuring heavenly blade. It was most suitable for him, and it was powerful enough. The myriad obscuring heavenly blade was also created by Ancestor Wangan, and he felt that its power was far greater than that. There was still a great secret. Right now, I'll focus on cultivating the 3rd chapter, the chapter of Wei, and supplement it with the myriad obscuring heavenly blade. Lin Feng had a clear goal. After I comprehend 100,000 source points, I'll cultivate the 1st chapter, the myriad chapter. Chapter 1988. The 3rd chapter, Path Verification, was about the fusion of light and darkness. With light and darkness as the source, one could surpass the limit and wander the universe until the limit of the heavenly axiom. This was the essence and mystery of the entire Wanxian path. The previous 2 chapters more or less had the traces of other experts. Only the Path Verification was the true effort of Wanxian Ancestor. It was created with the effort of his entire life. He wanted to use the fusion of light and darkness to prove his Tao and break through the Tao, but he could not open the final door. The 9 heavens of light and darkness. I firmly believe that if I can comprehend the 9th heaven, I can break through the Tao and surpass the limit of the heavenly axiom. Unfortunately, my luck is not enough, and I can't see through the secrets of heaven and raise the fusion of light and darkness to the ninth heaven. What a pity, if my descendants cultivate the fusion of light and darkness with me. Remember not to cultivate beyond the fifth heaven. When you surpass the limit and wander the universe, you must change to other ultimate Tao. Remember. The opening words spoke of Wanxian ancestors' sorrow. But Lin Feng knew that although Wanxian ancestors said so, he was still unwilling to give up. He even hoped that his descendants could complete what he had not done. Otherwise, he would not have left behind his cultivation experience after the fifth heaven, instead of emphasizing it again and again. In the depths of his heart, there was still a deep obsession. He hoped that his descendants could help him break through this wall, inherit his legacy, and walk a brand new ultimate Tao. And the 9 heavens of light and darkness that he created was indeed extraordinary. The first heaven of light and darkness, comparable to a peak god. The second heaven of light and darkness, comparable to a peak god. The third heaven of light and darkness, comparable to a peak god master. The fourth heaven of light and darkness, comparable to an ordinary venerable, almost invincible under the god level. If you learn the fifth heaven of light and darkness, you can surpass the limit and wander the universe. Invincible, just the first heaven of light, and it was already comparable to a peak god level. It was terrifying, but the cultivation requirements were also very high. The first heaven of light and darkness was not the fusion of one great Tao of light and one great Tao of darkness, but the fusion of all 6 great Taos of light and all 6 great Taos of darkness. It was very difficult. That was why it was so strong. I can't fuse all 12 at the moment. However, the fusion of a great Tao of light and a great Tao of darkness is worth a try. If I can successfully fuse them, I will have the strength of an ordinary god, Lin Feng thought. He was already very satisfied. Ordinary deities were already far beyond the level of the master of the Black region. From what he knew from the Thousand Heaven Path, after surpassing the master of the Black domain was the god rank experts. They were divided into elementary, intermediate, and advanced. Above the god rank experts were the gods. They were divided into ordinary, elementary, intermediate, advanced, pinnacle, and pinnacle. Above the divine spirit was the heavenly god, and above the heavenly god was the divine master. After that, it was beyond the limit and roamed the universe. The experts of the Origin Awakened continent are trapped by the restrictions of a wandering planet. It's difficult for them to break through. 9-star battle strength is already equivalent to the universe's god-level powerhouses. Those at the bottom of the Origin Awakened list are probably low-level god-level powerhouses. The third tier, which is ranked 31 to 50, are mid-level god-level powerhouses. The second tier, which is ranked 11 to 30, are high-level god-level powerhouses. There wasn't much content in the first volume. After all, the first volume of the Thousand Heaven Path was mostly at the perfection level. The reason why it was so long was mainly because the Thousand Heaven Path had 12 Grand Taos. Each Grand Tao had an analysis of 100,000 source points and 2 Grand Taos. How could it not be a lot? As for the Heaven and Earth chapter, there was almost no record, only a few words of introduction. After all, whether it was the secret techniques of the Heaven and Earth chapter or the ones created by the Heaven and Earth ancestor, they were all after 100,000 Grand Taos. Even if it was a foundation, it would at least be after analyzing 100,000 source points and reaching the perfection 4th stage. There was still a lot of content in the chapter of Tao validation. It talked about the essence of light and darkness, but the ancestor's level was too high. No matter how shallow the things he talked about were, it wasn't something he could comprehend. However, the first volume of the chapter of Tao validation still had some solid content. Before cultivating the light and darkness 9 heavens, the light and darkness perfection fusion can be cultivated first as a foundation. This way, when you start cultivating the light and darkness 9 heavens, you will have more comprehension. There are 7 stages of foundation. After cultivating the 7th stage, you will fuse into one. Your foundation will be incomparably solid, and the light and darkness first heaven will be formed. Comprehension of essence and laws was one aspect. Fusion was another aspect. I have tried to fuse before, but the realm is too far away. Lin Feng was familiar with the foundation of fusion, and he benefited a lot every time. With his current fusion realm, it could only be considered the first stage, barely fusing. However, I can be considered to have come into contact with the second stage, initial fusion. I believe I can complete it in a short time. Lin Feng was still confident about the second stage, initial fusion. He could also achieve the third stage, fine fusion, in a short time. However, the fourth stage, normal fusion, was difficult. It was very difficult to achieve a normal fusion like two other types of energy. After all, light and darkness were two types of energy of heaven and earth that repelled each other. This was a fusion dividing line. Once it was achieved, it would be considered to have truly stepped into the threshold of light and darkness fusion. Other types of energy of heaven and earth could also be fused, but generally, it was already normal fusion at the beginning. The fusion of light and darkness is 2 stages higher than other fusion. The normal fusion stage is comparable to the perfect fusion of other elemental energies. The 5th stage, tight fusion, is comparable to the final stage of other elemental energies, fusing into one. And when it reaches the 6th stage, perfect fusion, it will exceed the fusing into one realm with other elemental energies. It was very powerful. It might not be eye-catching at the beginning, but the deeper the cultivation, the more obvious the advantage. The upper limit of light and darkness fusion was extremely high, and this was only the 7 stages of the foundation. My advantage is the body of the laws of light and darkness. I have comprehended all 12 great Tao of light and darkness. Since that is the case, I will fuse and comprehend according to the highest standard set by Ancestor Wan Qian. The standard set by the Ancestor was naturally the fusion of the 12 great Tao of light and darkness. Fusing 2 great Tao of light and darkness with the Ancestor's treasure book, Wan Qian Tao. What a joke! The fusion of others was the fusion of 2 great Tao of light and darkness. Even if it reached the limit of fusing into one, it was just so. Of course, if one majored in the earth element, the perfect fusion of 6 great Tao of earth with the body of the laws of earth could be comparable to the fusion of his body of the laws of light and darkness. However, it was only equivalent to the fusion of 1 great Tao of light and 1 great Tao of darkness. He would fuse 6 great Tao of light and 6 great Tao of darkness. The number of elemental Tao fused alone would be double. The upper limit of power would exceed 1,000 times. Once he reached the 100,000 origin realm and cultivated the 9 heavens of light and darkness, he would be invincible. His battle prowess would be endless. Chapter 1989. Everything was ready. He only needed to cultivate. Although Lin Feng did not enter the chaotic void space, it gave him plenty of time to cultivate. He could use the calming heart lake to cultivate as he wished. Every 10 years, he could enter for 4 years to cultivate and dissect 100,000 sources. For the next 6 years, he would use the time cultivation array to combine treasures, train his blade techniques, and try to fuse them. The intensive and compact cultivation, without any distractions, caused Lin Feng's strength to increase by leaps and bounds. In the first 4 years of comprehending the calming heart lake, he had dissected a total of 77,478 law origins. The remaining 22522 law origins had been comprehended in less than 11 months during the second round of 4 years. Without relying on the Wan Qian Dao, the calming heart lake's guidance was much more outstanding. Lin Feng did not continue to cultivate the 4th stage of the Dark Demon Dao, because it was a waste to do so in the calming heart lake. The greatest use of the calming heart lake was still to dissect 100,000 source points. With the experience of dissecting the Dark Demon Dao, the second Lin Feng dissected the Light Speed Dao was much faster. At the beginning, it was close to 1,000 source points every month. After the 3rd month, he was completely familiar with it. It exceeded 1,000. However, The highest speed of dissecting did not exceed 1,100 source points. It was much slower than the Dark Demon Dao. It was not that the talent of the Light Speed Dao was worse than the Dark Demon Dao, but because of the Nightmare Blood Crystal, it allowed him to dissect 100,000 source points with half the effort. The Light Speed Dao was twice as fast as the Dark Demon Dao. This was the limit of the Calming Heart Lake and comprehension. Without the Calming Heart Lake, even if he relied on the Wan Qian Dao left behind by the Wan Qian ancestor, it would take a few months to dissect one source point. This was under the condition of having good talent and luck. If he had nothing, even if he had good talent, he might not be able to dissect one source point in a few years. This was the value of the Calming Heart Lake. For cultivating the Tao of laws, the Calming Heart Lake's value could be said to be perfect. 39,660 source points. After 4 years of comprehending, the Calming Heart Lake ended. Lin Feng let out a sigh. He was still 60% away from dissecting 100,000 source points. His progress was not bad. After all, the Tao of Light didn't have any treasures similar to the Nightmare Blood Crystal. As for similar treasures, I still have the Swan Yao Nightmare Stone and the Mystical Cloud Crystal. One is of the Tao of Oblivion, while the other is of the Tao of Radiant Divinity. They should be able to save me quite a bit of time. However, we'll have to wait another 6 years. Lin Feng discovered that even though they were both fusing, the efficiency of fusing at the Great Perfection stage was different from fusing at 100,000 origin points. The latter was much faster. After dissecting 100,000 origin points, one's realm would be higher, and one's comprehension of the laws would be deeper. Naturally, the fusion efficiency would be higher. There's no rush. In any case, I haven't fully grasped how to use the 12 colored ribbons and scorpion wings. Oh, how should I execute the match made in heaven? In the 34th year, Lin Feng's 100,000 origin points in the Path of Light exceeded 90,000. He was only a hair's breadth away from the 4th stage of perfection. And in the latter half of his saber art training, he successfully used the 4th move, Boundless Weight. In the 44th year, the 100,000 origin points in the Path of Light were all dissected. Lin Feng refined the Guyao stone and dissected the Path of Oblivion. Even though the Path of Oblivion's talent was inferior to the Path of Light, because of the existence of a treasure like the Guyao stone, the dissecting speed was nearly twice as fast. Every month, he dissected an average of 2,700 origin points. In just a little over 3 years, before the end of the 4th Calming Heart Lake cultivation cycle, Lin Feng's Path of Oblivion reached the 4th stage of perfection. The dissecting speed even surpassed the Path of Dark Demon. It was not that the Path of Oblivion's talent was better, but that the Guyao stone was more helpful in dissecting. The Guyao blood crystal from before was more for improving the bloodline and had different uses. In the 54th year, the Path of Light also reached the 4th stage of perfection. Although the slippery cloud heavenly crystal was inferior to the Guyao stone, Lin Feng's talent in light was better, and his dissecting speed reached 2,100 origin points per month. In the 58th year, Lin Feng's Path of Dark Demon and Path of Light fused together, reaching the 2nd stage of foundation, initial fusion. In the 83rd year, the Path of Darkness was completely dissected. In the 107th year, the fusion reached the 3rd stage of foundation, fine fusion. In the 139th year, the 4th move of the Myriad Obscurity Heavenly Blade, Boundless Weight, was cultivated to perfection. In the 234th year, Hua, fine ripples spread out from the surface of his body, filled with dense light energy, and fused with his entire body. At this moment, Lin Feng was incomparably perfect. Every divine light pattern on his body seemed to be formed naturally and was tightly integrated with his body, without any distinction. After dissecting 100,000 origin points of the 6 great paths of darkness, 100,000 origin points of the 6 great paths of light were also dissected. In terms of strength, the increase was not obvious, but his understanding of the light and darkness laws had reached a new level. The resonance between the 6 great paths of the same law is a great help to the fusion and 4th stage of perfection. Lin Feng's comprehension of the laws was already very high, and these 200 years of effort had not been wasted. Just the contribution points alone were huge. The contribution points that he had originally saved had long been used up, and he had been exchanging for elite true treasures in exchange for contribution points. Although there was a cycle every 10 years, 7 9-star experts had a total of 700 days and nearly 2 years of Tranquil Heart Lake quota. There were still 2 years where Lin Feng had to fork out his own money. Every 10 years was 760 days, which was equivalent to 76,000 contribution points, which was 760 million void crystals. Fortunately, Lin Feng had previously plundered the Destiny world and had plenty of elite true treasures, which was why he could spend so much. But after these 234 years, he had almost used up all his contribution points. For the time being, the quota of Tranquil Heart Lake is not that important. After dissecting the 12 great paths of light's 100,000 origin points, all that was left was to construct each great path of light and reach the 100,000 origin realm. At this time, he relied more on the myriad heaven path and the time cultivation array. It was true that the construction in Tranquil Heart Lake was faster, but because of the time cultivation array, the time ratio of 1 to 100,000, and with the myriad heaven path, the construction of the 100,000 origin points was much faster. After that, every 10 years, 700 days will be used for fusion. There is no need to exchange for contribution points. Even if Lin Feng wanted to exchange for contribution points, he did not have the ability. Saber training, fusion, and construction of the 100,000 origin points. Lin Feng's cultivation in Tranquil Heart Lake's slow improvement was more in the aspect of the realm. The 100,000 origin realm was much higher than the Great Perfection realm. It was not only the power, but also the cultivation time. Only by enduring loneliness and suffering could one become a true expert step by step. Year 488. Boom! A pure and extreme saber energy slammed into the boundless space, causing violent tremors. The space was crazily torn apart with endless power. This was in the time cultivation array. If it was in the outside world, it would have displayed its terrifying power. Finally, the light and darkness fusion foundation has reached the 4th stage, normal fusion. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. This was the goal he had set before. When the fusion reached the 4th stage of light and darkness foundation, he could come out. My current battle strength is enough to enter the top 30 of the Origin Awakening list. Lin Feng's fighting spirit was high. Chapter 1990. Number 2 Calming Heart Pond, Shi Dingshan's residence. Oh, he's in seclusion again. What has my 7th brother been cultivating all this time? There's no movement at all. Shi Dingshan was busy dealing with the clan's affairs, but he was also curious. Lin Feng was the most promising newcomer in the clan, so he paid special attention to him. Every once in a while, there would be clansmen coming to report on Lin Feng's movements. The turbulent void has been open for almost 500 years, but he's really not in a hurry. Shi Dingshan smiled bitterly, remembering that 500 years ago, he was the one who told Lin Feng not to be in a hurry, because there was still plenty of time. But now, Lin Feng was not in a hurry, but he was inexplicably anxious. After all, although the turbulent void had been open for an era, the shortest time it had been open was only 3,000 years, and it had been open many times, including 4,000 and 5,000 years, which was very common. One time, it took 500 years to cultivate, and, at this time, isn't it too extravagant? If Shi Dingshan was not tied up with miscellaneous matters, he also wanted to enter the turbulent void. Since he had entered the previous reincarnation, it was naturally his turn to guard this reincarnation. Forget it. It doesn't matter if he doesn't enter. Anyway, 7th brother is still so young. It won't be too late to enter when his strength increases a little. After all, his true strength is still a little weaker than 4th brother's. Shi Dingshan recalled that battle, and couldn't help but sigh at Lin Feng's outstanding ability to control the situation. To be able to exert 120% or 150% of one's battle strength This kind of battle talent was unparalleled. But then again, Lord Song had underestimated Lin Feng that day, and he didn't know the depth of Lin Feng's strength, but Lin Feng knew his strength. Although Lin Feng had won, it was also a coincidence. If they fought again, Shi Dingshan believed that it would be difficult for Lin Feng to win. But regarding Lin Feng's strength and potential, Shi Dingshan was incomparably certain, and even the Patriarch was shocked by him. This kind of talent was top-notch in Origin Awakened Continent. Seventh Brother's current strength is already stronger than Fifth Sister and Sixth Brother. After another reincarnation, he will definitely rank in the top 40, surpass Fourth Brother and even Third Sister, and become the true pillar of the human tribe of the Milky Way. Shi Dingshan was very much looking forward to Lin Feng's future. Not entering the chaotic void space this time was not necessarily a bad thing. It was actually not a bad idea to be cautious. In any case, given Lin Feng's current strength, even if he entered the void turbulence, it would be difficult for him to reach the deepest part of the void turbulence. If he didn't go to the deepest part, no matter how lucky he was, the periphery would at most contain some outstanding true treasures or treasures of the same level. Did Lin Feng lack such a treasure? Even if there was a shortage, the tribe would provide enough. Suddenly, Shi Dingshan, who was dealing with official documents, raised his head. His eyes lit up and he was pleasantly surprised. He felt the arrival of a familiar aura and couldn't help but smile. Second Brother. Lin Feng's figure suddenly appeared. He was wearing a black martial attire and had a slight smile on his face. You're finally out, Seventh Brother. Shi Dingshan walked over with a smile and clapped his hands. Come, let me have a look. TSK, your body is stronger and your aura is stronger. Lin Feng couldn't help but smile. Second Brother, I didn't improve my body. After consuming the fruits of heaven and earth, his body was almost fixed. It was not easy to improve it again. Ha! Shi Dingshan laughed heartily and didn't mind at all. Come sit. A while ago, I could still see you once every 10 years. Recently, I haven't seen you for almost 100 years. Lin Feng smiled. Previously, because he had to exchange for contribution points and the quota of the Tranquil Heart Lake, he had to bother Brother Shi every time. After that, he didn't need to exchange for the quota of the Tranquil Heart Lake anymore, so he had been in seclusion. I'm here to say goodbye, Brother Shi, Lin Feng said. Oh, Shi Dingshan paused for a moment. I thought you wouldn't go to the void turbulence. Big Brother and the others have been there for almost 500 years. The void turbulence should be lively now. If I don't go, wouldn't I have wasted the key? Lin Feng shrugged. Shi Dingshan laughed loudly. Seventh Brother, you still care about 1 billion space crystals? The quota of the Tranquil Heart Lake in the Contribution Tower is much more than that. I have no choice. I have to change when I have to, Lin Feng said. Shi Dingshan asked curiously, Seventh Brother, haven't you already formed a body of laws? Why do you still need to cultivate in the Tranquil Heart Lake? The body of laws is only the foundation, Brother Shi. Lin Feng said, walking the path of laws, great perfection is only the beginning. There's still the second, third, and fourth stage, all the way to the 100,000 Origin Realm. 100,000 Origin Realm? Shi Dingshan's eyebrows suddenly jumped. He said, please tell me more. It's like this. Lin Feng did not hide anything. He immediately told Shi Dingshan everything he knew about cultivation, which made Shi Dingshan nod. His eyes shone brightly. He had already formed a body of the laws of Earth, so his cultivation had not improved. Right now, it was as if he had seen a brand new path. So it's like this. Shi Dingshan muttered to himself from time to time and nodded. He had gained enlightenment. He was not stupid. He was a super expert ranked 25th on the Origin Awakening list and had a body of the laws of Earth. Just like Dong Huang, he was a top genius of the Milky Way clan. Lin Feng's words had opened the path of cultivation for him. I really have to thank you this time, Seventh Brother. Shi Dingshan let out a long sigh after a long time. He sighed and said, You've opened my eyes and solved a question that has been bothering me for a long time. I can't thank you enough. It's just a small matter. Lin Feng smiled and looked at Shi Dingshan. Brother Shi, if you want to thank me, why don't you spar with me before I leave? Shi Dingshan was stunned, and his eyes widened. Spar with me? Lin Feng nodded. Yes, just the two of us will do. Shi Dingshan laughed heartily. What's the problem? I also want to see how much seventh brother's strength has improved. Previously, when Lin Feng and Sonya fought, Shi Dingshan's hands had already started to itch. Right now, it was exactly what he wanted. Lin Feng smiled. Why don't we do it now, Brother Shi? Let's go. Shi Dingshan laughed and patted his chest. Let's go inside. My cultivation room is very big. Don't hold back, Brother Shi. Don't worry, I'll do my best. Haha, I'll let you see how powerful Brother Shi is. After a while, in the cultivation room, Lin Feng slowly stepped out. His eyes were burning, and the elements of light and darkness that had not yet dissipated surrounded his body. He was like a peerless god of war, full of battle intent. What a pity. If I could improve the basic fusion of light and darkness, or if I could reach 100% perfection in my blade mastery, I could beat Brother Shi. Lin Feng said softly. It was similar to what he had expected. With his current strength, he could enter the top 30 of the Origin Awakening list easily. In the previous spar, he could already be on par with Brother Shi. However, it was only a tie. After all, a spar was different from a life and death battle. No one would use a real killer move. If I meet Wu Arai again, I'll definitely kill him. Lin Feng's eyes shone. Right now, he was full of confidence. Chapter 1991. In the huge training room, a towering figure was sitting cross-legged. There was a deep scar on his armor. His face was slightly pale, and there was deep shock in his eyes. He shook his head from time to time. Unbelievable, really unbelievable. Shi Dingshan was a little dazed. There was deep shock in his complicated eyes. When he thought of the battle just now, his heart was beating fast and his blood was boiling. Originally, he just wanted to test Lin Feng's strength. Who would have thought that? In the end, it would become a real battle. It had been a long time since he had such a carefree battle. He had not used all his strength. The complicated affairs of the clan made him forget the thrill of battle. He had forgotten that he was a warrior who pursued the limits of the heavenly axiom. I understand now. Is this what you want to tell me? Seventh brother, big brother, is still the clearest. Shi Dingshan let out a long sigh and smiled bitterly. With one hand on the ground, Shi Dingshan stood up. His majestic body was like a sturdy fortress, incomparably heavy. At this moment, Shi Dingshan felt as if he had been cleansed of impurities, as if he had been reborn. This was a transformation of his state of mind. Clench his fists, and the majestic power of the earth burst out. Shi Dingshan's eyes were no longer confused. Instead, it was replaced by rich combat power and endless fighting spirit. Born as a warrior, die as a battlefield. The clan can still operate without me. But without myself, am I still complete? Ha ha! He laughed heartily. Shi Dingshan, who had thought it through, was no longer restrained. He was like an overlord who had broken free. After so many years, I have almost forgotten the feeling of battle. I have forgotten that I am King Dingshan. Shi Dingshan took a step forward. His eyes were clear and bright. Thank you, seventh brother. This saber strike of yours has awoken me, your second brother. Almost. Just a little bit more, and I would have lost to you. Shi Dingshan grinned. There was deep arrogance in his eyes. Once upon a time, he was the most talented warrior in the Milky Way. Once upon a time, he was the pride of the Milky Way's human race. He was unparalleled, but now he had become the deputy patriarch and had forgotten himself. I am Dingshan King. Shi Dingshan was like an unyielding mountain, standing tall and majestic. He strode out of the cultivation room and said, "How can I be absent from the turbulent void? Ha ha! Wait for me, big brother, seventh brother. Wait for me to settle the clan's affairs. Then I'll come and fight alongside you. Born as a warrior, die as a battlefield. I, Shi Dingshan, will not live a mediocre life." Lin Feng sped through the muddy swamp. Fame and fortune, duty and obligation, coupled with your stagnant cultivation base. Over the years, your passion has been wiped out. This was not just one aspect, but a combination of many aspects. After reaching the precepts, Brother Sure's cultivation had reached a huge bottleneck, and it was difficult for him to make any further progress. His treasures, realms, and so on had all reached their limits. Being ranked 25th on the Origin Awakening list was the best proof. It would be very difficult to take another step forward. After that, Brother Sure devoted himself to the affairs of the clan and took on the responsibility of the deputy patriarch. Gradually, his fiery heart cooled down and he forgot his original intention. It was very difficult to maintain one's original intention, especially after success and recognition, and after losing one's goals and ambitions. I believe that after this battle, Brother Sure's original intention has been awakened, and his fighting spirit has been reignited. Lin Feng smiled. Brother Sure looked steady and magnanimous, unmoved by anything. But how could a former genius not have pride in his heart? The blood flowing in his body was the blood of an expert. Whether it was third sister or fourth brother, they were unable to shake Brother Sure's position in the clan and had the strength to match him. Therefore, Brother Sure was as steady as a rock, and his state of mind naturally would not change. But it was different now. His rise and real battle had brought unparalleled pressure to Brother Sure. Especially that blade at the beginning of the battle. It had directly shattered Brother Sure's dusty arrogance. Of course, awakening Brother Sure was only one of his goals. Most importantly, he also wanted to know what level his strength had risen to after nearly 500 years of bitter cultivation. My battle prowess is comparable to Brother Sure's, around 25th on the Origin Awakening list. Lin Feng was very satisfied because he had not paid much attention to improving his battle prowess in the past 500 years. He had focused more on improving his foundation and hard strength. Even so, his battle prowess had still risen. My strongest point now is actually not battle prowess. It's the realm of the Tao of laws. Lin Feng was heading to the Green Palm Field. Before entering the chaotic void, he naturally had to settle everything else. He had made a promise to the Green Palm Field and owed them a favor. Moreover, the Eye of Destiny was not of much use to him. It was not bad to be able to help the Green Palm Field. Although the Green Palm Field was a demon, he hated the Destiny race more. Once one of the 5 great races, they were defeated by the Destiny race and never recovered. Lin Feng stepped into the Green Palm Field with ease. There was no danger here to him now. The entire Green Palm Field only had 2 8-star experts, the Grand Elder and a number 1 expert of the Green Palm Field, Yao Wandi. Even if they worked together, they were far from being his match. Even if there is danger in breaking the curse left behind by the Destiny race, I should be able to deal with it with my current strength. Lin Feng did not think that the curse of the Green Palm Field could be easily broken. That was the curse left behind by the Destiny race, the oldest race of the Origin Awakened continent. Could he break it with the Eye of Destiny alone? The possibility was very small, but now he had the strength to withstand it. If he could not even break the curse left behind by the Destiny race, what chance would he have if he met them in the chaotic void? Since they had already met, they would not rest until one of them was dead. Passing through the swamp and the spatial membrane, Lin Feng stepped into a fairyland with lush trees and blooming flowers. The fragrance was rich, and the beauty of the scenery was in sharp contrast to the swamp outside. This was a paradise that was too beautiful to be taken in all at once. However, to the Green Palm Field, as a demon, this was like a nightmare. When I came here, I was only a 5-star. Lin Feng smiled. His aura was completely condensed in his body, and he did not release it at all. However, all the life aura around him was under his control. The current him was already a true 9-star expert. In the universe, he could already be called a god-level expert. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the distance, 3 half-naked green figures flew over with extremely cautious looks in their eyes. They only heard the sound but did not feel any life aura. Suddenly, their eyes lit up when they saw a human youth. It was enough to make the 3 strong Green Palm Field experts tremble in fear. "Who are you?" The 3 Green Palm Field experts shouted angrily. Chapter 1992. Take me to see your grand elder, Lin Feng said indifferently. The three green tree race powerhouses looked at each other, and one of them suddenly widened his eyes. Aren't you the human who came before? Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled. I didn't expect you to still remember me, Marquis Yao. He only knew one of the three green tree race powerhouses. The last time he entered, he was one of the three green tree race powerhouses who stopped him. However, although the green tree race looked fierce, they didn't have much malice. At that time, they only brought him to the core area to accept the test. The green tree race believed in winning people with virtue. So it's Lord Lin Feng. Marquis Yao's eyes suddenly lit up, and he smiled. I was wondering why you looked so familiar. That day, Lin Feng passed the green tree race's Holy Land test and became famous. Marquis Yao naturally remembered him. For nearly 10,000 eras, only 8 of the tens of thousands of powerhouses who came to the Green Tree domain survived the Holy Land test. Lin Feng was the 9th. Lin Feng, Lord Lin Feng. The other 2 Green Tree race powerhouses came back to their senses, and their hostility disappeared. They all looked at Lin Feng curiously. Those who could survive the extremely difficult Holy Land test were all outstanding people of their respective races. The Green Palm Tree tribe respected such a powerhouse very much. Lord Lin Feng, are you here to look for the Grand Elder? Marquis Yao asked curiously. Lin Feng nodded. Is the Grand Elder here? Marquis Yao smiled. All the elders are here. I believe they will be overjoyed to see Lord Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled and said, yes, they will definitely be very happy. He didn't tell Marquis Yao in detail. After all, he was only a 6-star powerhouse, and his status in the race wasn't that high. He still didn't know too many secrets. Furthermore, the 2 of them had a deep friendship to begin with. Soon, under the lead of Marquis Yao and the other 2 Green Tree race powerhouses, Lin Feng went to the core area of the Green Tree domain. Along the way, he saw many 5-star, 6-star, and 7-star martial artists. However, he did not see any 8-star martial artists. A clan that used to be one of the 5 major clans, on par with the Destiny clan and the Milky Way's human clan, had a 9-star elite. But now, the sun was setting in the west, and they were no longer as glorious as they used to be. In fact, with Lin Feng's strength, it wouldn't be a problem for him to force his way through, but there was no need for that. It was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. Lord Lin Feng, we've arrived, said Marquis Yao Feng. He said something to the 2 experts behind him, and they left. Marquis Yao Feng said, Great Elder and the others are having a meeting in the Elder Hall. I'll take you there. Lin Feng nodded. The core area of the Green Tree region was as bustling as before. The clansmen of the Green Tree race lived and worked in peace and harmony. The man's skin was green and his upper body was naked. His skin seemed to be made of steel and was filled with explosive power. The woman only covered her important parts. She was like a flower from the devil world, charming and moving. The Green Palm Tree clan inherited the characteristics of the Devil clan. They had very strong physical strength, but they did not have as strong a viciousness as the Devil clan. Hey, that person looks so familiar. Idiot, it's Lord Lin Feng who broke through the Holy Land back then. How long has it been? You've already forgotten. All right, look at my memory, haha. Along the way, many Green Palm Tree race experts greeted Lin Feng. That day, Lin Feng had taken the test in the core area. The Green Palm Tree race had always won people over with virtue and respected the strong the most. Lin Feng also responded to each of them with a smile. He had a good impression of the Green Palm Tree race, so he chose to help them that day. Walking through the crowded and lively square and passing through many deep passageways, Lin Feng soon arrived in front of a majestic hall. There were many Green Palm Tree race clansmen guarding the surroundings. They were all 7-star elites. When they saw Lin Feng, a stranger, their eyes turned cold. Oh! Lin Feng's gaze fell on a Green Palm Tree race expert at the top of the stairs. He could not help but take a few more glances. This Green Palm Tree race expert was obviously taller and stronger than the other Green Palm Tree race experts. He was like the king of a group of fierce tigers. At this moment, he had his arms crossed in front of his chest, and his eyes were slightly closed. His entire body exuded a terrifying aura like a mountain. An 8-star elite. Yao Wandi. This name appeared in Lin Feng's mind. There were only 2 8-star elites in the entire green palm tree race. One was the Grand Elder, who was inside. The other was Yao Wandi. It was rumored that Yao Wandi was a rare genius in the green palm tree race for tens of thousands of years. If the green palm tree race was at its peak and had enough resources to nurture him, he would definitely become a 9-star elite. It's true. With Lin Feng's current strength, he could naturally see through Yao Wandi's depth at a glance. He was an 8-star elite. Moreover, he was already a peak 8-star elite. He was only one step away from becoming a 9-star elite. However, this step was very difficult to take in the current green palm tree domain. It was true that cultivating in the sacred land was fast, but the green palm tree domain was currently cursed and sealed. There were great restrictions on entering the sacred land. If there were no special opportunities, it would be too difficult to break through to that level. Swish! Yao Wandi looked at Lin Feng and frowned slightly. He had also seen this human in front of him, but he couldn't sense any aura at all. It was as if he was an ordinary person. However, he completely ignored his aura and pressure. It was very strange. The elders are having an important meeting. Marquis conferred, the 7-star clan member guarding outside said. Marquis Yao conferred softly and looked at Lin Feng. Lord Lin Feng, it seems like you'll have to wait for a while. Wait for a while? Lin Feng was slightly surprised. Marquis Yao conferred said, for ordinary regular meetings, you can enter to report if you have something to do. However, for important meetings, unless it's an extremely urgent matter, you can only wait outside. Look, even Wandi can't enter. How long will it take? Lin Feng asked. Marquis Yao conferred replied, I'm not sure. If it's short, it could be a day or half a day. If it's long, it could be a few months or even years. A few years? Lin Feng frowned slightly. He didn't have the time to wait for so long. However, he also knew that this was the case for important meetings. For the Milky Way's human race, it was very difficult to gather all 6 9-star experts. After all, everyone had their own matters to attend to. If there was an important meeting, everything would naturally be settled at once. No expert had the time to attend meetings every 2 to 3 days. Lin Feng pondered slightly and said to the clan member guarding in front, please inform them that I have an urgent matter. Urgent matter? The clan member guarding was slightly startled and then dismissed it with a smile. What urgent matter did a foreign human have to disturb an important meeting of the race? Seeing that he didn't reply, Lin Feng knew that it wasn't a big deal. He didn't care too much. It was normal for them to have such an attitude when he suddenly asked for an audience. If it was before, he might have explained, but there was no need to do so now. Soon, they would know everything. Lin Feng was calm and composed as he directly walked towards the Hall of Elders. His expression was as tranquil as an ancient well, as if everything was normal. The 7-star clan members guarding, including Yao Wandi who was waiting above, suddenly had a huge change in expression. Chapter 1993. What are you trying to do? The 7-stars clansmen on guard opened their eyes wide and shouted. Snap! At the top of the stairs, Yao Wandi's naked upper body muscles looked as if they were about to split open. His pair of red eyes emitted a sharp light as he clenched his fists. His aura was incomparably tyrannical. As long as Lin Feng dared to step on the stairs, he would definitely kill him. However, Lin Feng didn't care at all. Just like that, he confidently stepped forward and a faintly discernible aura spread out. In an instant, the expressions of the 7-stars clan members, who originally wanted to block him, changed. The direct pressure of the level of power made it impossible for them to even attack. The current Lin Feng's soul level was extremely powerful. What? Yao Wandi's face was filled with shock. Suppressing the pressure, he suddenly roared. Black chi wrapped around his iron fists as he directly punched towards Lin Feng, using his strongest strength. However, whoosh! The punch hit the empty space and tore apart Lin Feng's afterimage. Pung! Lin Feng directly pushed open the heavy metal door, making a dull sound. He didn't even look at Yao Wandi behind him. With his current strength, dealing with Yao Wandi was as easy as blowing off dust. Even if Yao Wandi was a peak 8-star expert, there was a qualitative difference between an 8-star and a 9-star. It was a complete transformation of life level. Yao Wandi was dumbfounded. He didn't know what had just happened. His punch hit the air, and it didn't even touch the other party's body. He was a peak 8-star expert. Even in the Origin Awakened continent, he was one of the best. Who? What's going on? Don't you know we're having an emergency meeting? In the hall, the elders' unhappy voices could be heard. Numerous gazes were cast over. When they saw the person who had arrived, they were all startled. He looked extremely familiar. Lin Feng? The human Lin Feng? The elders were stunned. At this time, several figures rushed into the hall. It was Yao Wandi and the other Green Tree clan experts. They were shocked and uneasy, especially Yao Wandi, who looked at Lin Feng with extreme vigilance. Wandi is also here? What's going on? All the elders were dumbfounded. The soundproofing of the elder courtyard was quite good. Even though there was a huge commotion outside, it didn't affect the inside at all. Elder, please forgive us. The 7 Stars clansmen who were in charge of keeping watch knelt on one knee, cold sweat trickling down their backs. Elder, just now, Yao Wani hurriedly said. It's been a long time, elders. Lin Feng interrupted them with a faint smile. I trust you have been well since we last met. Whoosh, this time, Lin Feng's aura spread out without reservation. In a split second, it was as if the heavens had descended. The strength of the aura directly suppressed Yao Wandi behind him. He, who was originally very vigilant against Lin Feng, instantly widened his eyes in shock. 9-star expert. Yao Wandi was stupefied. He was very strong, but how many peak 8-star powerhouses were there in the entire Origin Awakened continent? The number was much more than 9-star powerhouses. However, even the 9-star powerhouses at the bottom of the Origin Awakening list were much stronger than peak 8-star powerhouses. It can't be. Lin Feng has become a 9-star powerhouse? How long has it been? Impossible. All the elders were stunned. When they first met Lin Feng, he was just a 5-star little guy. Now, he had actually become a 9-star powerhouse. It was too unbelievable. Sorry to disturb everyone, Lin Feng said apologetically. It's just that I still have something to do and don't have much time. No, it's nothing. It's fine. It's just a small matter. All the elders hurriedly said. What a joke. That was a 9-star powerhouse. A big shot that their green palm race could only hope to visit was much more important than the meeting. After all, the meeting could be held at any time. If they neglected a 9-star powerhouse, the gains would not make up for the losses. I didn't expect Lin Feng to still remember us, even though you were a 9-star powerhouse now. The first elder was the first to react and walked over with a smile. Yes, it's too rare to be able to remember your roots like this, the third elder said with a smile. Let's go. I'll immediately arrange a banquet and treat him well, the 6th elder said happily. After he finished speaking, he was about to order the 7-star race members who were kneeling on one knee and were completely stunned. The human Lin Feng that they had blocked outside just now was a 9-star powerhouse? Oh my god. Elders, you don't have to be so polite, Lin Feng said directly. I still have important matters to attend to. The main purpose of this trip is to fulfill the promise that day. Promise? The 9 elders looked at each other, puzzled. Could it be? The first elder's eyes suddenly lit up and revealed a shocked expression. Lin Feng, you've obtained a 9-star Eye of Destiny. Hiss! All the elders sucked in a breath of cold air. No! Lin Feng shook his head. All the elders sighed softly in their hearts. Their disappointment was obvious. However, they also knew that the Eye of Destiny was too difficult to obtain, especially a 9-star Eye of Destiny. It was almost impossible to obtain it. The sole shock of the Destiny race's death was extremely terrifying. Even if one could kill a 9-star Destiny race powerhouse, they would die together with him. However, there are many 7-star and 8-star Eyes of Destiny, Lin Feng said. All the elders were stunned. Many. The 7th elder's voice trembled slightly. Lin Feng smiled and swept his gaze over the expectant faces. He said softly, enough to break the curse seal. Swish! All the elders' eyes lit up instantly. Even Yao Wandi, who was behind him, opened his eyes wide and unconsciously opened his mouth. He said in surprise, "Really? Is what you said true? Lin Feng?" "No, Lord Lin Feng." "Yes." Lin Feng nodded. He couldn't kill a 9-star Destiny race powerhouse, but he had collected many 7-star and 8-star Eyes of Destiny. It was more than enough to break the curse seal. All the elders were wild with joy. They were so excited that they couldn't speak. They had been waiting for this day for far too long. For tens of thousands of eras, they had waited for 8 powerhouses who had passed the Sacred Grounds test. However, there was no news of them after they left the Sacred Ground. They didn't know whether they were dead or alive. There was nothing they could do. They couldn't force others to do it. After all, it was the Destiny race. The Green Palm Tree race used to be very powerful. They had 5 9-star powerhouses, but they were almost exterminated by the Destiny race. In the end, they were trapped in the curse seal and fell to this state. However, they never gave up. On one hand, they worked hard to nurture new stars with potential. Yao Wandi's rise was like this. On the other hand, they hoped that the powerhouses of other races could help them achieve their wishes through kindness and favors. They were even willing to reward them with the position of the Patriarch. They had never succeeded, but they had always worked hard. Now, they finally got what they wanted. They had waited for hope. They had waited for him to appear. Lin Feng, looking at the group of elders who were so excited that they were speechless, Lin Feng could see many things from their eyes. That was their root, their future, and the goal and wish that they had spent their entire lives trying to achieve. He could understand it. "Take me to the cursed land." Lin Feng smiled at the elders. Chapter 1994. Sacred Land, Collapsed Tower. In a desolate and dark area, a cold wind blew. It was pitch black, and there was a heart-palpitating cold light everywhere. From time to time, there would be mournful cries, as if there were endless ghosts wandering around. A dense aura of darkness rushed over. To other experts, this place was like hell, but to martial artists who cultivated the great Tao of darkness, it was an excellent cultivation ground. For example, Lin Feng and the Green Palm race. Unfortunately, this place was now barren, and because of the existence of the Destiny race's curse, the Green Palm race's clansmen would suffer once they entered. Only clansmen with strong willpower could barely cultivate here, but the efficiency of their cultivation would be greatly reduced. Among the elders, only the first elder was calm. The other elders had to resist the power of the curse. However, it would not be a big problem for the time being. In the Sacred Land, the power of the curse in other places is considered ordinary, but the power of the curse in the sealed land is the strongest. The first elder's expression was serious, and his eyes looked weathered. This is the center of our Sacred Land. In the past, generations of elites of the Green Palm race were born here. The previous patriarch, teacher the heavy prophet, the first elder muttered to himself with a dazed expression. He had not entered this place for a long time, and it evoked memories. Scenes surged in his mind, and his heart was filled with endless sadness. He was not the only one. The other elders were the same. Some closed their eyes, and some wept. Many of them had experienced that era, and they were all born when the Green Palm race was at its peak. However, they watched as their race declined bit by bit, and their lives were in danger. This feeling was indescribable. Now they had hope. They saw a future with endless possibilities again. Pairs of burning eyes looked at Lin Feng. Their hearts seemed to be grabbed by a pair of invisible hands, squeezing until they could not breathe. No matter how strong the power of the curse was, it was not stronger than the hope in their hearts at this moment. They were alive just to wait for this day to come. Is this it? Lin Feng looked ahead. At the center of the Sacred Land, there was a deep and boundless eye of destiny that seemed to contain endless mysterious power. It was suspended in the void and connected to the surrounding space. Sizzle, sizzle, the endless spatial turbulence, with the huge eye of destiny as the center, enveloped a large area of the Holy Land and sealed it in a spatial mezzanine. The powerful pressure was comparable to a 9-star powerhouse, so it was no wonder that the powerhouses of the Green Palm tribe were powerless. Yes, the first elder's face was stern. His eyes were full of anger and hatred. The Holy Land was originally a spatial secret realm. This is the origin of the Holy Land. The great elder said in a deep voice, although the Holy Land itself is made up of dark energy, because the source of the Holy Land has been sealed by the curse, the core of the dark energy has been greatly reduced, and less than a tenth of the dark element is left. Less than 1 out of 10? Lin Feng was slightly surprised. Such rich, dark energy was not even a tenth of the Holy Land's original. Thinking about it, it made sense. Back then, the Green Tree race was one of the 5 great races, and they even dared to compete with the Heaven's Mandate race, so they naturally weren't ordinary. Which one of the 5 major clans' secret realms was ordinary? Needless to say, the Heaven's Mandate realm of the Heaven's Mandate race was needless to say. The calming heart lake of the Milky Way's human race was also incomparably precious. The Winged Men race, the Void Dragon race, the secret realms they were in were their roots, the source of their power. The first elder sighed. Originally, even if the Holy Land was weak, if there were descendants with heaven-defying aptitudes like Wan Di, once they broke through to 9-star, there would still be hope for them to rise again, but the existence of the cursed seal. Sigh. Lin Feng nodded. Although the Holy Land was far from its original state, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse, and it still had a stronger breeding effect than the 18 top races. However, the existence of the cursed seal was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Unless a miracle happened, the Green Tree race had no hope of rising again. However, it's very familiar. Lin Feng looked at the huge Eye of Destiny in front of him. That feeling was incomparably familiar, as if he had seen it face to face before. Suddenly, Lin Feng's heart trembled. He instantly thought of the huge Eye of Destiny in the sky above the heavens will world. It's very similar. No, it's exactly the same. Lin Feng had been in close contact before, so naturally, he could sense it clearly. Especially now that he had become a 9-star powerhouse. His judgment of aura was even more direct. Although the 2 Eyes of Destiny were much different in terms of size and pressure, they were essentially the same. It's indeed not simple. Lin Feng thought to himself and braced himself. In the Heaven's Mandate realm, the existence in the void that was more terrifying than 9-star powerhouse was the huge Eye of Destiny that could sense the entire Heaven's Mandate realm. If this cursed seal came from the huge Eye of Destiny, it was naturally not ordinary. However, this kind of challenge was more exciting. It couldn't do anything to me in the Heaven's Mandate realm. Now, if I'm a 9-star powerhouse, why would I be afraid of it? Lin Feng smiled. On the way here, he had already learned the method to break the curse seal from the first elder. In fact, it was very simple. He just had to enter the Heaven's Mandate curse formation and break the curse. Because the energy of the curse and the Eye of Destiny were opposite, the energy of the Eye of Destiny was needed. Other than the Heaven's Mandate race, there was almost no other way to break it. For a long time, the Green Tree race had once invited a 9-star powerhouse to enter it with a large sum of money, so they knew the way to break it. The one who started the trouble should end it. Elders, please leave first. The danger of this trip is unknown. Lin Feng said, perhaps when the Heaven's Mandate curse is destroyed, it will produce a huge amount of energy. At that time, it will be troublesome if we are affected. Moreover, the curse power here is too strong, and staying for too long will consume our vitality. Then I'll leave it all to you, Lord Lin Feng. The first elder's tone was respectful. Firstly, he needed Lin Feng's help. Secondly, Lin Feng was already a 9-star powerhouse. In the Origin Awakened continent where strength was respected, the status of a 9-star powerhouse was supreme. Thank you, Lord Lin Feng. Please be careful, Lord Lin Feng. We'll take our leave first and wait for good news. All the elders bowed their heads with gratitude in their eyes. They naturally wouldn't be wishy-washy. After all, there might be danger when breaking the Heaven's Mandate curse formation. Most of them only had 7-star strength and might not be able to withstand it. There was no need to show off. Don't worry, everyone. I'll do my best, Lin Feng said. All the elders thanked him from the bottom of their hearts. They had waited for tens of thousands of eras and finally met someone who was willing to help them sincerely. Their hearts were filled with warmth. Lord Lin Feng, regardless of the success or failure of this trip, you are our green tree race's great benefactor. If you need us in the future, we won't hesitate to go through water and tread on fire, the first elder said deeply. Lin Feng smiled. He could tell from the first elder's words that breaking the heavens mandate curse formation was not simple. After all, this method of breaking was estimated by a 9-star powerhouse. Whether it could succeed was still unknown. However, since that 9-star powerhouse could leave safely, he believed that there wouldn't be any danger to him. Soon, as the elders left one by one, the entire sacred land returned to peace. Only the huge eye of destiny in the void emitted a terrifying pressure. Step. Lin Feng stepped in. Chapter 1995. Wearing the sacred feather king armor and spreading the wings of warmth, Lin Feng entered the cursed destiny array. With the defense of 2 outstanding true treasures and the Mo Schweb boat, his current defense could be said to be at the peak of the 9-star level. Coupled with his extremely powerful soul defense and physical strength, defense was no longer his weakness. Instead, it had become his advantage. Sizzle, sizzle, ripples spread out, and the entire space seemed to be in chaos. Spatial turbulence could be seen everywhere. The Eye of Destiny had powerful spatial control and perfectly merged pieces of shattered space together. With it as the center, it formed a huge array domain. Chi, chi, chi. A series of electric snake-like space blades shot out, attacking indiscriminately. However, the wings of warmth on Lin Feng's back flapped gently and blocked them easily. Even if Lin Feng didn't defend, he wouldn't be hurt at all by the 8-star attack. However, it was different for the other 8-star experts and 9-star experts with weaker defenses. Is this the power of the curse? After entering the array, the shallow curse power outside became much denser. It even suppressed the Eye of Destiny and formed ripples that resonated and spread out. Inside the array, one could vaguely feel the rich aura of the Holy Land. It couldn't be concealed at all. What powerful dark energy! Lin Feng was surprised and delighted. Even though they were separated by a spatial barrier, he could still feel the energy of the spring at the center of the Holy Land. It was overflowing and had accumulated to an astonishing level. Unbelievable. Lin Feng sighed inwardly. At this moment, he had completely forgotten about the Eye of Destiny and the cursed seal. Only the Holy Land's origin was left in his eyes. It was the root of the green palm race. Tens of thousands of years ago, it had been sealed after the battle with the Destiny race. Without the origin, less than 1/10 of the dark energy in the entire spatial mystic realm remained. However, it didn't dissipate. It was just sealed. Seals are different from others. Seals permanently contain a place in a firm and limited space, and the origin won't be damaged. It's because of the existence of the boundary that the origin at the center of the Holy Land will continue to produce energy. The center of the Holy Land relies on the origin to produce dark energy. The accumulation of tens of thousands of eras, all condensed in a limited space. Lin Feng's heart shook as he sighed. Less than 1/10 of the origin energy was already enough for the green palm tree race to maintain the strength of one of the 18 top races. The remaining 90% of the origin energy had been accumulated for tens of thousands of years. Just how rich would it be? Therefore, even though they were so far away, they could still vaguely sense the existence of the broken space. If I can go in and absorb. Lin Feng's heart suddenly became excited. This was definitely a great opportunity, one that was even rarer than cultivating in the Tranquil Heart Lake. Although the effect was not as good as cultivating in the origin of the Holy Land for tens of thousands of eras, it was at least 20 to 30%. My dark mage wealth may overflow in a short period of time. Lin Feng was looking forward to it. Even if it wasn't for the Green Palm tribe, he would still do his best to undo the cursed seal. because this was a great opportunity for him. The Eye of Destiny, the power of the curse. Although Lin Feng could not hide his joy, he still maintained his calm as he carefully examined the Curse of Destiny array. How could a formation set up by the Fate race to restrain a race be ordinary? The slightest carelessness would cause one to be burned. Not in a hurry to use the Eye of Destiny, Lin Feng walked around and carefully observed the entire formation. With his current perception ability, there were only a handful of 9-star experts who were stronger than him. The structure of the Curse of Destiny formation was simple. First, with the Eye of Destiny as the core, the entire formation was constructed and the origin of the Holy Land was sealed. Next was the structure of the formation. There were 12 layers inside and 108 layers outside. The unique structure moved on its own and continuously released curse power. The curse power suppressed the Eye of Destiny and formed the foundation of the Curse of Destiny formation. Finally, there were endless spatial turbulence and shattered spatial blades. These were produced by the collision between the curse power and the Eye of Destiny, obstructing and attacking the martial practitioners who entered the formation. Swoosh! Swoosh! The spatial blades were densely packed and innumerable. They were not very powerful, but the weakest had the power of 7-star, and the strongest was comparable to the threshold of 9-star. There was no pattern at all. Coupled with the suppression of the curse power, it could be said that it was difficult for any powerhouse below 9-star to survive. Powerhouses above 9-star would not be able to stay here for long if their defense was insufficient. After all, there were too many spatial blades. I see. Lin Feng quickly understood. The principle was indeed very simple. As long as the Eye of Destiny at the center of the formation was given enough energy to suppress the curse power, the curse would naturally be broken or even completely extinguished. After that, without the curse power, the Curse of Destiny formation would cut off one of its arms, and the Green Palm tribe would be able to enter and exit the Holy Land freely. Although the Holy Land's energy was less than 1/10, it could at least be cultivated. After that, the Eye of Destiny, which had lost the formation support and the curse power, had tyrannical energy, but was like an object without an owner. It could slowly consume its energy and release the origin of the Holy Land. The Curse of Destiny formation would then collapse. It seems like that's the case. Lin Feng could not find any fault with it. Even his first thought was probably the same. It was a simple and smooth process. The only trouble was to obtain the Eye of Destiny. Because the curse power was at 9-star level, the energy of the Eye of Destiny needed to be at 9-star level, or 10 8-star Eyes of Destiny, or 107-star Eyes of Destiny. Whether a single energy was enough was not important. What was important was the sum of the energy. After all, to resist the curse power, one had to rely on the huge Eye of Destiny that originally existed at the center of the formation. As long as it was given enough energy, it could suppress the curse power and break the formation. But I keep feeling that something is wrong. Lin Feng fell into deep thought. A formation set up by the Destiny tribe to restrict an entire tribe was not that simple. Moreover, how could a formation set up by the Destiny tribe cause the Eye of Destiny at the center of the formation to be so passive? It was a little illogical. If he had not entered the Destiny realm, Lin Feng might not have such concerns. However, he had entered the Destiny realm. He also knew that the huge Eye of Destiny in front of him was of the same origin as the huge Eye of Destiny in the Destiny realm. That was the soul of the entire Destiny realm. How could it suppress the soul of the Destiny realm by the curse power? Impossible. Lin Feng directly denied it. He stared deeply at the huge Eye of Destiny. It was as if he had returned to the days in the Destiny realm. When he fled in all directions, the huge Eye of Destiny was like a maggot attached to a bone, firmly locking onto him. It was the chief treasure of the Destiny tribe, one of the top existences. Oh, Lin Feng was deep in thought. Looking at the giant Eye of Destiny, he smiled. I think I understand. Chapter 1996. It looks simple, but it's actually very simple. Lin Feng was relieved. The Heavenly Fate Curse Array only needed to be clear about its primary and secondary components. Obviously, the huge eye of heavenly fate was definitely not secondary. What looked weak might not be weak, and what looked strong might not be strong. Just like in an army, the one who strategized was the lord and marshal, but the one who charged into battle was the fierce general and commander. The huge eye of heavenly fate was naturally not weak. It looked weak because it was of the same origin as the power of the curse. In fact, it was the source of the power of the curse. Otherwise, where would the power of the curse come from? Out of thin air? Lin Feng smiled. There were no energy crystals that could maintain an array formation for tens of thousands of years. Only by being one with the array formation and having an endless supply could it last forever. If he gave the huge eye of heavenly fate energy, it would nourish it instead. In fact, it might even cause it to attack. This was because the eye of heavenly fate could not be owned by anyone, including the heavenly fate race themselves. Actually, it doesn't matter whether it is or not. Lin Feng stepped into the spatial turbulence. His warm wings easily blocked the attacks of the spatial blades. His eyes were bright. If he was only at 8-star or had just stepped in a 9-star, he would need to find a way to break this array. However, he was no longer the same as before. His strength was already comparable to Brother Sure, who was ranked 25th on the Origin Awakening list. Using strength to break the Tao, straightforward, a light flashed in Lin Feng's hand, and the Eclipse Mystic Saber immediately appeared. It caused the divine pattern of light to shine brightly. Lin Feng's aura suddenly soared, and even the Sacred Feather King armor resonated. Just nice, I can test my current attack power. Other cultivators might be afraid of the heavenly fate race, but he did not care at all. Even if he knew that this huge eye of heavenly fate came from the same source as the huge eye of heavenly fate in the heavenly fate realm, they were even closely related. So what? They were already enemies, so he naturally had to fight to the end. Boom! Lin Feng directly slashed down with his saber. The 99% realm of the saber's incomprehension was fully displayed. The entire world seemed to be crying for this saber. It was extremely mysterious and indestructible. This was the second move of the myriad heavenly saber, Tears of Chaos. However, with Lin Feng's current strength, it was naturally extraordinary. The mastery of all sabers was only one step away from perfection. This saber's strike headed straight for the huge eye of heavenly mandate at the heart of the formation. There was no hesitation, killing decisively. The strongest point was also the weakest point. Sizzle. Hiss. Endless spatial turbulence emerged, and the entire array formation shook. Violent spatial fluctuations turned into ripples of killing intent that tore at Lin Feng. It was the space strangulation. Bang! Lin Feng was completely fearless. His warm wings disrupted space. The Mo Schweb boat protected him, and his saber was unstoppable. With a rumble, it collided with the defensive power of the Eye of Destiny. Boom! Rumble! Rumbling sounds rang out endlessly, and the entire formation shook violently. The Eye of Heaven's mandate let out an ear-piercing sound, as if a monster had been struck. It was furious and let out a mournful roar. What a strong rebounding force! Lin Feng felt the web between his thumb and forefinger go numb from the rebounding force. He borrowed the rebounding force to retreat. He could feel the wrath of the Eye of Destiny. It was extremely human-like, as if it had a life of its own. Swish! The huge Eye of Destiny completely awakened. It suddenly opened, and the space seemed to shatter. Whoosh! A terrifying suction force appeared, and the surrounding space completely collapsed. The huge Eye of Destiny surged with a terrifying suction force. It was like a huge whale opening its mouth, swallowing seawater into its stomach. The heavenly mandate realm was peaceful. Since Lin Feng had caused a ruckus last time, even 9-star experts had appeared. In an instant, the experts who wanted to take advantage of the chaos fled, and the heavenly mandate realm returned to its peaceful state. In the void, The huge Eye of Destiny floated as usual, high up, scanning the entire heavenly mandate realm. No one knew its origin, and even fewer people knew of its existence. After all, not everyone had such a strong perception like Lin Feng. Suddenly, sizzle, sizzle, space rapidly shrank, and the huge Eye of Destiny emitted an incomparably powerful aura. It opened with a trace of anger, and the entire heavenly mandate realm seemed to fall into darkness. Crack, crack. The space rapidly changed. At this moment, in the heavenly mandate palace, a crack opened in the purple-red Eye of Destiny. The purple-red light lingered, and a heavenly mandate expert wearing a monk's robe stepped out. He had a string of Buddhist beads around his neck, and his brows were slightly furrowed. Supremacy, Wu Tsang said respectfully. The heavenly mandate expert in monk's robe scanned the surroundings. Where are Wu Long and the others? Wu Long was the #1 expert of the heavenly mandate race, and a super expert ranked 7th on the Origin Awakening list. Supremacy, the chaotic void space opened 500 years ago, Wu Tsang said. The heavenly mandate expert in monk's robe nodded and said in realization, "Is it your turn to guard the race this time? I remember, it was your turn last time, wasn't it?" Wu Tsang's expression was somewhat ugly. Yes. The previous battle with Lin Feng had caused Wu Tsang to be heavily injured, and the trauma to his heart was even greater. The other 9-star experts of the heavenly mandate race all thought that Wu Tsang had embarrassed the heavenly mandate race, and he had to swallow his pride. He hated it. If it wasn't for that human Lin Feng, would he have ended up in such a state? I might have remembered wrongly, the heavenly mandate expert in monk's robe said. Wu Tsang secretly gritted his teeth and didn't explain. Supremacy, do you have any orders? I'll do it immediately. The heavenly mandate expert in monk's robe said, tens of thousands of eras ago, King led the heavenly mandate race to fight against the Green Tree race and broke the seal set by the Green Tree race's experts. Although the Green Tree race escaped, they have no chance of rising again. However, just now, King's blood essence seal loosened. What? Wu Tsang was greatly shocked. The heavenly mandate expert in monk's robe said, the Green Tree race is very cunning and has set up many obstacles. For tens of thousands of eras, the heavenly mandate race has never been able to determine the exact location of the Green Tree race's hiding place. We only know that it's in the 10,000 evil zone, one of the 18 natural dangers. 10,000 evil zone, Wu Tsang said softly. The heavenly mandate expert in monk's robe said, now that the seal has loosened, the Green Tree race's hiding place should be exposed. King's blood essence fluctuation is the strongest. If you enter the 10,000 evil zone now, there's a high chance that you'll find the Green Tree race's hiding place and catch them all in one go. Wu Tsang understood. I'll head to the 10,000 evil zone now, Supremacy. The heavenly mandate expert in monk's robe said, although the Green Tree race doesn't have a 9-star expert, you can't be careless. The one who broke the seal is most likely a 9-star expert. Wu Tsang sneered. They're just helpers hired by the Green Tree race with a lot of money. They're not stupid enough to work for the Green Tree race. Supremacy, please report to King that Wu Tsang will definitely handle this matter properly. There won't be any mistakes. The heavenly mandate expert in monk's robe nodded. Perform well. King's transformation has reached the final stage. It won't be long before he comes out of seclusion. If you perform well, King won't mistreat you. Wu Tsang was overjoyed. Wu Tsang won't disappoint King. Chapter 1997. Third move, Mandarin Ducks. Lin Feng made some slight adjustments before launching another attack. The third move of the myriad obscuring heavenly saber, Lovebirds, was half as fast as Tears of Troubled Times. However, once it was executed, it was endless and contained boundless power. When it was used at 99% of the saber's incomprehension, it was even more charming. In the past 500 years, Lin Feng's saber technique had not improved much, but it had been improving steadily. Now, he was only one step away from 100% of the saber's incomprehension. However, this step was very difficult. Many experts on the Origin Awakening list were stuck at this step. For example, Lin Feng's fourth brother, Lord Horizon, was one of them. If he could reach 100% of the saber's incomprehension, Lin Feng would not have been able to win that day. It blocked it again. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. Instead of being angry, he laughed. At the center of the formation, the resistance of the huge Eye of Destiny was not strong. Again, holding the Eclipse secret Civ saber, Lin Feng's body glowed with light runes. However, he did not activate the dark runes. Firstly, he wanted to probe. Secondly, he wanted to test the power of his saber technique. Fourth move, Boundless Weight. This was the most powerful move of the myriad obscuring heavenly blade that Lin Feng had mastered so far. The boundless heavens and earth were filled with a heavy pressure. The myriad of blade energies crashed down like Mount Tai, directly aiming for the huge eye of heavenly will. At this moment, crack, crack, space began to shatter like a tortoise's shell. Strands of strangling power shot out, accompanied by the devouring of space. The enormous Eye of Destiny was enraged and launched a fierce counterattack. Clusters of space blades constantly attacked Lin Feng, but they were all blocked by the Wings of Warmth. Boom! The huge Eye of Destiny was injured for the first time. Its defense is not bad, but its offense is average. Lin Feng quickly retreated. The warm wings wrapped around him. The three pairs of wings not only greatly reduced the attack's power, but they also wrapped his entire body tightly, leaving no gaps. Although he did not use the fusion of light and darkness, his offense, supported by Boundless Weight, had reached the level of a mid-level God-grade expert. It was equivalent to the attack of someone ranked 31st to 50th on the Origin Awakening list. However, it was only able to break through its defense, which showed how strong its defense was. However, compared to its defense, its offensive power was much inferior. It only knew space strangulation and space devouring, and its ability to control space blades was simple and ordinary. It should be more than that, right? Lin Feng thought to himself. In that instant, the huge eye of heavens widened, and a red light flashed. Lin Feng's heart trembled, and a tremor that originated from his soul came from the attack of the huge Eye of Heaven's will. As expected, you have a killer move. Lin Feng smiled. The strongest aspect of the Destiny race was their soul. This giant Eye of Destiny indeed had the ability to attack souls. However, his strongest defense was his soul. It was easily defended against. No wonder the cursed Destiny formation was able to suppress the green tree race for tens of thousands of years. Lin Feng more or less understood. Although the seal was important, the cursed Destiny array was also very powerful. Not everyone had a defense like his. Origin Awakener ranking powerhouses had powerful physical defenses, but their souls were often weak. Those with powerful soul defenses often had very ordinary physical bodies. In addition to the powerful defense of the giant Eye of Destiny and the support of the curse energy, his battle prowess was comparable to the experts ranked 20 to 30 on the Origin Awakener list. It's a bit like Brother Sure, strong in defense, but weak in attack. Lin Feng floated in the air. At this moment, a light flashed in his hand, and black runes appeared as the devil perishing saber appeared in his hand. However, its weakness is too obvious. It can't move. Its battle prowess is greatly reduced. Amidst Lin Feng's roar, light and darkness merged into one, forming a subtle resonance. The two energies no longer rejected each other, but instead complemented each other. The divine patterns of light and the demonic patterns of darkness on the surface of Lin Feng's body also formed a beautiful picture scroll. The fourth stage of the fusion of light and darkness, a normal fusion. It was comparable to the sixth stage of the fusion of the other two elements. Tears of troubled times. The saber in Lin Feng's hand seemed to be weeping. It was the same move, but the power was vastly different. When Lin Feng used Tears of Troubled Times for the first time, its power was only at the 9-star level, which was the power of a low-level deity. But now, it surpassed the attack power of a mid-level deity. It was even stronger than the fourth move, Boundless Weight. Boom! The giant Eye of Destiny was enraged, and its injuries were not light. Lin Feng's saber was too fast and too ruthless, and the attack power directly broke through its weak defense. The giant Eye of Destiny hysterically let out a hellish sound wave, attempting to throw Lin Feng's soul into chaos. But it was completely useless. It was like a last-ditch struggle. With the 10,000 origin mustard stone protecting his soul, Lin Feng was immune to all soul attacks. Boom, boom, boom. One saber strike after another, Lin Feng's blood surged. He had cultivated bitterly for 500 years, and who knew how many epochs he had spent in the time cultivation formation. It was rare to meet an opponent he could fight with all his strength. How delightful! Tears of Troubled Times was already strong enough. Lin Feng was clear that he didn't need to use the third move, Mandarin Duck Tai, to kill this giant Eye of Destiny. With his current strength, it would be easy for him to break the curse seal set by the Destiny race. But he didn't do so. After killing this giant Eye of Destiny and breaking the curse array, what would happen next? The seal at the center of the sacred land would be removed, and it would appear from the void, returning to its original appearance. But because there were no more restrictions, the dark energy accumulated in the center of the sacred land for tens of thousands of epochs would be scattered in a short period of time. It was as if a tightly shut room had been opened for ventilation all at once. Too wasteful. Lin Feng naturally couldn't bear to part with so much dark energy. What he needed the most now was light energy and dark energy. The purer, the better. Ordinary elemental energy was useless. The giant Eye of Destiny's power is divided into two. One is controlling the array to resist external attacks. That's its current power. The other is sealing the center of the sacred land. Lin Feng's saber moved faster and faster. The sky seemed to weep as saber after saber fell, and the giant Eye of Destiny grew weaker and weaker. But it couldn't resist or even escape. It could only passively receive the attacks and try to counterattack and kill Lin Feng, but couldn't do it. It was completely led by Lin Feng. From the beginning, the giant Eye of Destiny's fate was sealed. Boom, boom, boom. Lin Feng's 3 consecutive saber strikes instantly exploded. The giant Eye of Destiny was already at the end of its tether. At this moment, it fell into a deep sleep like a martial artist who had fainted. The entire curse array's aura disappeared, and the array flickered as if it had collapsed. The curse array had lost its source of power, but the center of the sacred land still hadn't appeared. It still existed in the void. That power was controlled by the giant Eye of Destiny, and it hadn't been attacked from beginning to end. Lin Feng naturally wouldn't attack it. It's done. Lin Feng held 2 sabers and smiled faintly. The giant Eye of Destiny had fallen into a deep sleep. The cursed power disappeared, and the center of the sacred land was still sealed. It was perfect. Break for me. Lin Feng's warm wings swept past, and a trace of spatial fluctuation appeared. It directly tore open a hole in the void in the center of the sacred land. In an instant, overflowing dark energy rushed out. Lin Feng took a deep breath, and his eyes lit up. Whoosh! With a flash, Lin Feng entered.